Let's do this. Get ready for the Dirt Life Show.
Woo! Yeah. Sorry for the late start tonight, guys. We really apologize. COVID got one of the computers, man. Took it out. So we're good now, though. We're streaming live on Facebook and YouTube. Woohoo! We beat COVID. All right, guys. So this is episode 35 of the Dirt Life Show. My name is Georgie Hamill, and alongside me, I got the glorious Casey Peck with his matching shoes and hat tonight. Pretty bitchin', dude. KMC got us dialed in.
Yeah, they did. They did. Thanks, Ryan.
Yeah, so thanks to Ryan. We're going to talk to Ryan in just a little bit here. Hopefully this stream stays healthy tonight and we can keep it going strong for you guys all night. Our featured guest tonight is Chris Hawks from Benchmark Performance. He's a tuner, mechanic, all of the above, man. He grew up racing and, fiddling around with dirt bikes just like all of us, man. And some of the stuff that I can't wait to ask him about is some of the old school dirt bike stuff that he's done, man. Because in the off-road world, he's pretty well known as, he's got championships with different drivers and just a whole bunch of good stuff. But I really want to get into the two-wheel stuff that he's done.
Heck yeah.
I think it'll be pretty cool.
Sounds like a blast.
Yeah, and we'll see if he had the staple, the PW50 when he grew up.
Yeah, my favorite.
Exactly. So we have some pretty exciting news tonight. We want to welcome a new partner, and I hope a longtime partner, man. Ryan Edwards that we had on an episode back a few months ago with KMC Wheels, man. Those guys do awesome stuff, and I got to admit, I mean, this wheel looks bitchin', right? I mean, it's killer.
Obvious.
All the products, I mean, the hats and stuff, but...
Yep.
Dude, this candle is like my all-time favorite. Like,
it's not even right.
First of all, it says the smell of victory.
Right.
Second, I mean, the smell is like off the chain. It is so good.
It's so good.
It's so good. I'm going to have to ask Ryan to send us a whole box of those bad boys.
I'm going to need one. I gladly will pay whatever it takes to get one.
Yeah, like $50 a candle kind of thing. Yeah, dude.
It's so good.
It smells so good. I wish you guys were here in studio with us so you could smell this bad boy. So yeah, thank you very much to KMC Wheels for joining the Dirt Life Show. We have a bunch of cool stuff that we're going to start doing, and maybe we'll do some giveaways and things like that. I think it'll be a really, really cool partnership, and Ryan's just such a good dude. We're going to talk to him in just a little bit here. Since we're going to get caught up a little bit, I'm going to speed through all this real quick like we usually talk about. You can always join us on Facebook and YouTube every Monday night. You can look at the archives on iTunes and Stitcher and Spotify, all the good places, Google Play. We're all over the place. So, and we really, really want to get more interaction from everybody. So please join us as much as you can. Comment in on Facebook, DM us on Instagram, hit us up on YouTube, leave us a comment. It's really, really growing, and we are so stoked to have you guys be a part of the show because it's just so cool to see what everybody's doing. Tonight's topics that we're going to talk about. Oh, actually, let me thank the sponsors real quick. We obviously want to thank KMC Wheels. Like I said, we'll bring Ryan on. Shock Therapy, we're going to be at those guys' shop on Wednesday. That'll be a fun little deal. You can use the code DIRTLIFE at their website, save a whole bunch of cash. Zollinger Racing Products, use the code DIRTLIFE at ZollingerRacingProducts.com, save a bunch of money on their awesome products. We did Instagram Live with them the other day. That was really, really cool. We're going to do a Rugged Radio giveaway, so pay attention tomorrow. We're going to give away these SR radios. These things are badass, man. The 5-watt radios, they got 1 to 3 mile range, and we're going to post on our Instagram tomorrow how you guys can win these things. So check it out, and good luck to all you guys. We've got a little funny video coming out tomorrow, so check it out. And obviously we want to thank those guys at Solder Weld. They make their off-road repair kit. It's the best in the business. It's really, really cool. So, like I said, the Rugged Radio giveaway is tomorrow. One of the things that we're going to talk about is we're going to talk shop talk. I don't know how much actual shop talk we'll get into, but what have you guys been doing, or what have you guys been doing in the garage since COVID's been happening?
Yeah, it's funny. I don't think we're the only ones, but it's like every little project that you've been putting off.
Yeah, all of a sudden comes up.
Right, totally. Like I've washed all of my bikes. I've lubed them. I've put this different tire on, like everything. So I don't think I'm alone in that statement, all the honeydews that have piled up. So hopefully you guys are doing the same and getting her done. So when this all breaks loose again, we don't have to worry about all the stuff we've been,
plus all your stuff
off.
is like super mint, like
Right.
ready to go.
It's still not how I'd like it, but you know how it goes.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's nice though to see that like everybody gets a little bit of extra time to do stuff.
Right.
But so I've been like tuning up just like you, like tuning up the car, tuning up the van, tuning up the dirt bike, like getting everything all mint, trying to find extra projects to do. I even did some backyard work. Like,
nice.
It's pretty cool, man. So
yeah, it'll be good ready for the reset, right? When it's time, when the floodgates
open.
I
hope the reset's tomorrow, man.
I know, man. I think everybody is ready to go.
Well, the thing that we were going to talk about, obviously we're late tonight, so we kind of got to brush over it, but it was just having shop talk, man. Like, I want to hear what people have been doing, man. Like, good evening, boys. Jeff Angel says, I have taken the whole YXZ apart to clean everything. Yep, see, even upgraded to a bigger fuel
there
tank.
You go.
And then we're going to go up to Shock Therapy and meet with him on Wednesday, too, and do some video stuff. Installing the IQS system on the YXZ is going to be the first one.
Awesome.
So we'll see what happens. But yeah, commenting in and having fun with us. Let us know what you guys are doing in the garage over this little pandemic break that everybody has now. And who knows, maybe you spent your stimulus check on some fun stuff too.
Like a bigger tank?
Yeah, exactly. So, let us know what you guys think. I'm going to give Ryan a call here real quick. What are some of the stuff that your wife made you do?
So I got some shelves in the bathroom to hang up.
Oh, did you?
I didn't get those done yet, but shelves everywhere, it seems like. Moving the pictures to here, moving the pictures to there. Garage work. You name it.
I know. What about like pots in the garden and stuff like that?
So Lily's talking about she wants to plant an herb garden. So
Ryan, what's going on, man?
What's happening?
Same old stuff. We're just talking about flower pots and stuff like that, like what the COVID break is doing to us. Casey said his daughter wants to do some flower pots or garden.
Yeah, she wants to do some kind of herb garden or something, which sounds like fun.
Well, that'll be cool if you get free herbs. You don't have to pay for it.
Yeah.
Well, welcome to the show, man. I really appreciate it. So this is show 35, man. We've been just trucking along with these bad boys, man.
You guys are cranking them out.
Dude, we're trying to. How's everything going out there in Cali?
It's going good. Just still hunkered down, waiting for all this to end.
You guys still working hard?
Trying to work hard from home, as much as the Wi-Fi will let me.
Yeah, exactly. And you're putting those KMC wheels to use. I saw a few posts that you did on Facebook and Instagram that you're actually doing some UTV riding, huh?
Yeah. You can't stop me from riding my UTV, that's for sure.
and your dirt bike too. I'm a little bit jealous of that new KX450 that you got.
I'm pretty pumped on that thing. The 2020 is pretty epic.
Is it really?
Yeah, it's a pretty awesome beast.
Dude, it looks sick. How was it going out to Glen Helen the other day? I didn't even think they were going to be open.
They are not. Luckily, my good buddies own AHM Motorsports, and they rented it for the day.
Nice.
Oh, dude, that's dialed then. So you got like a fresh track, hardly any people.
Fresh track with 20 bikes on it. It was pretty prime.
Dude,
that's smart for the track too. There's been some RC tracks that have been doing that too. Yeah, absolutely. They've been doing the same thing where they're renting it out, keeping it low key, and it keeps them going, like you said.
Well, since you're on audio and you're not on FaceTime, we got a little display of the KMC stuff here in the studio today, and we wanted to thank you very much for everything, especially that freaking candle, dude. That thing is off the chain.
Those are pretty epic, huh?
Oh my gosh, it's so good.
Dude, I want to get since our audience members, our listeners can't smell it in the studio, I want to do a giveaway or something with those bad boys. Are those limited edition?
Yeah, I have a couple of them left. We can raffle some off here on Facebook or something.
Dude, that'd be cool. Yeah, maybe do something on Facebook or Instagram. That would be super cool.
Yeah,
man.
Not a lot of people have those.
Not to mention the fandana, I'm calling it.
The fandana?
The fandana.
What does that
It's
mean?
a handkerchief.
Oh, yeah.
I'm calling it the fandana.
Oh, because we can give them away?
Instead of a bandana, it's a fandana.
Dude, those things are super cool, too.
Yeah, they are cool.
You guys been doing
those have come in pretty useful.
Dude, yeah, especially right now, right?
Yeah.
So, I just wanted to give you a buzz tonight and just say thank you, man. Like, I really appreciate you guys coming on board to our little tiny show that we just started. I mean, the show is actually growing really, really well. It's got a consistent growth. I was checking out some of the statistics, and I'm really excited to be able to start these partnerships with companies like KMC and have just cool people around supporting it, man. It's awesome.
No, yeah, we're stoked to be involved, and you guys resemble everything we want to have going on. So why not partner with the best?
Dude, super cool, man. So yeah, I just wanted to give you a virtual fist bump, dude. Thanks, man.
Yeah, for sure, man. Anything else you guys need, we'll be here for you.
Dude, stoked. Well, we got a few hats from you already, so I think we're stocked up for now. So maybe we'll just try to give away some stuff in the next couple weeks here. Right now, we're giving away some rugged radios this week, so maybe in the next couple weeks we'll be able to give away some KMC candles. That'd be sick.
For sure, yeah. We'll get those up and get some people stoked.
Dude, yeah, that's awesome, man. Well, I appreciate it. We're gonna get our buddy Chris Hawks on the line here in just a little bit. So thank you very much for calling or having us talk to you tonight. And please have a good dinner and keep your family safe, bud.
No worries, guys. Have fun tonight.
All right, bud.
Take care.
See ya.
Later.
Yeah, and I didn't want to get too far into it with him with the thanking him, but it honestly is really, really cool to see. Just think about what companies are doing right now. Companies are laying people off. Companies are cutting budgets. Companies are not doing as much as they would to market. And KMC's investing in our little show. Like, that is so cool.
Pretty cool.
And,
nice compliment.
Yeah, absolutely. And to me, the time investment is more important than anything else because they're taking time away from all this frustration that they have for our little show.
Mm-hmm.
And they see value in that. That is so cool. And it kind of goes back to what we talked about last week with the return on investment for sponsors, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And so it makes me feel good too, It makes me feel like we're doing something that is worth something.
Right.
Right. Communicating with people and just having a good time. I think it's bitching, man. I really do.
Absolutely.
And so thank you to them, and obviously thank you to all the other guys that are keeping on board and doing stuff with us. It's just really, really cool, man. We've got such a good team of sponsors, and we just can't wait to keep growing it and growing the show, especially for everybody that's involved, man. It's just so awesome. So I got my watch party started on Facebook now too, so we can get as many people on here as possible. Let's talk a little bit more about. We got about 10 minutes until our next caller calls in. So let's talk a little bit more about this shop talk that we're going to get into. So me personally, I've gotten the Unicorn Yamaha YXZ like all dialed, right? Like I took apart the front end, I tightened everything, Loctited everything, markered it so you know where the bolts are, like did all the OCD stuff so that's like perfect.
Fully pro.
The only thing I haven't cleaned that you're probably going to be mad at me is my road bike, my bicycle. So, yeah. But it sounds like you did all your stuff, huh?
Yeah, they're all spit shined and ready to go.
Dang. Well, I'm going to have to get on it. I feel lazy now.
We've been doing some a little bit of afternoon and whatever riding as well. I've been trying to get the wife and the girls out, but I can't always get everybody together, it seems like. So, I don't know. Hopefully soon we can get the whole family out cruising the neighborhood,
and just hang out.
But I'm seeing a lot of that, which is where I was going with that is a lot of people in my neighborhood that I've never even seen before, didn't even know they had kids, and they're out. It seems like with new bikes, and they're out doing their thing. So I'm happy to see that.
Oh, let me ask you a question. So this is like I kind of get off the subject of the shop talk, but so all the kids in California were going to a skate park to like skate and stuff. And the city or whatever
filled it full of sand, right?
Yeah, because they got all pissed at them.
That's insanity.
Don't you think that's super dumb?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. I guess I get what they're trying.
Well, they're
to
trying to get everybody to
but
social distance. But if you look at it from 2 points of view, first I'm pissed about it because I think the kids should be able to do what they want. I mean, if the kids are going to get COVID, it's their fault, right? Or their parents' fault. Like plain and simple. Either you tell your kid yes or no, he can go or not.
Right.
But don't use the city's power to put sand on it, like to take it down. Like that's not something that you should be able to do, right? Like I feel like that's like, I don't know. I just feel like that's pretty bad news.
I know, it's crazy. And if we are starting to come out of this thing, imagine the resources that'll be tied up to, or maybe they'll never uncover that.
Well,
you know what I mean? Who knows?
So check it out. So these mini bike guys went in there and made a motocross track in the sand.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and they took, like, broomsticks and shovels and, like, dustpans and stuff and made berms and all kinds of stuff. So they went in there, and the news got it, and the news made a like a popular viral post about it that's saying how cool it was instead of being like bad.
That's cool.
So there is some
nice
positive
twist.
coming out of it.
Sure. It's a nice twist.
Can you imagine a skate park with sand that you could ride your mini bike? That'd be sweet.
No, it sounds like our other dream that we'll never see to fruition, which is golf course.
Oh, riding a dirt bike on the golf course?
Yeah, and I appreciate golf. I actually really like it, so I wouldn't do that. But when we were growing up, we always thought, look at all the cool rhythm sections and doubles and sand pits. Yeah, totally.
Just all kind, and plus it just looks so prime. These guys keep it so mint. But yeah, so going back, like I think all of this stuff is just, there's two ways to look at everything. You know what I mean? Like you can sit on the couch and get fat, like the quarantine 15, like everybody's talking about, putting on all kinds of weight, or you can go out in the garage. You can mint stuff out. You can do all your favorite things and just have a good time with it. I think it's pretty important that everybody, well, not only enjoys themselves, but has a good outlook on all the stuff that's happening right now. I mean, it's a hard thing to deal with, and I hope that people are making the most out of it. I've seen a bunch of people actually redoing their YXZs, like painting it and doing all kinds of fun stuff. So I think that's really cool, man. I think doing all that and utilizing your time is like one of the best things to do.
Yeah, you know what has been positive is to some of these we'll call them disposable income things. I mean, luckily some people still have that, but it sounds like those little niches have, because people want to be busy, they're just buying all kinds of stuff. Remember we talked about with Adam Drake just on this
Saturday,
weekend,
when we did Instagram Live.
And he was saying how people are buying engines, getting ready for next year. So. And then, like Jeff said, with the taking care of getting the car all apart and a new fuel tank, I think that's like happening a lot. So maybe there's a silver lining in the economy in this thing. But I mean,
well, at some point it's gonna fall on its face. But I agree that right now it's pretty cool to keep people at least motivated. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I know there's a lot of people in transition and all that stuff too. But Jeff just commented into and said that so. He's doing all the stuff to the YXZ, right? But he said Vicky and I made a small garden at her house too.
Nice.
So yeah, I guess it's eye for an eye, right?
Right.
You put new tires on the off-road car, and then you go make some garden stuff.
Yep. I guess the cool thing that I'm trying to take away from it is that people are not completely in fear. I mean, there's obviously some of that, and panic is going on and whatever, but some people have decided to say, well, what can I do to like keep my mind busy and like do something that's positive?
Yeah.
So that's good. And whether that means spending money that you don't have or not, I'm not advocating that you do that, but I get it.
Yeah. And I think like from the social media stuff that I've seen, I think most of the people are upgrading stuff or doing things that are within their limits.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And if they can't go out and buy a bunch of new stuff for their UTV or whatever's in their garage, they clean it.
Right.
And they maintain it and they change the oil or they do whatever was on the sidelines. You know what I mean? So now that they can do it. So a lot of that stuff is really cool. And I think there's a bunch of positives that come from it in my mind, because I think that maybe people will be, I don't know if this sounds rude when I say it, but less lazy coming out of it. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, I want to keep up with my stuff. You know what I mean? Like now they got it all fresh and nice. Go out and use it and then have fun on the trails and then come back and want to freshen it up again instead of leaving it, haggard or whatever sitting in the garage.
Right.
So I know it's going to motivate me, that's for sure. So hopefully it motivates some other people too. And we already talked about the rugged giveaway, didn't we?
Yep, we sure did.
Okay, cool. So we're good with that. Hopefully you guys can tune into our social media at the Dirt Life Show on Instagram. Tomorrow we're going to post something so you guys can win those bad boys and talk to your neighbors across the street without seeing them. It should be pretty cool. We're going to have a couple minutes. We're going to have our buddy Miles Cheek calling in, see how he's doing. He and his buddies, we'll ask him about this too, for their quarantine, they put a rope down from a big tall tree, and on the end of the rope, guess what was down there?
Pit bike.
KLX 110.
Yes.
So they're going boom, back and forth, ripping.
Nice.
So you have to check it out. We posted it on the I think the
That's
Dirt Life
awesome.
social media. It was really, really cool, man. So we'll have to ask him about that. So he was saying that his buddy was doing it, and they were going so high on like the sides, like when they'd go whatever left and right. It was badass. Way higher than you would jump a pit bike, and it was tied to a rope. The only thing that was kind of sketchy
That's
though
cool.
was like, what branch did they tie it to?
No
Because
kidding,
it was
right?
high. I mean, it was probably 30 feet off the ground.
It's funny. The only reason I guessed that is because I had just seen a video of a dude in some kind of gnarly like Jeep or something that was done. That was like that. It was all slung between two giant trees, and he was shifting forward, swinging, and then shifting reverse to do it again, and
Really?
was doing the pendulum with this big old 4x. It was insane.
Dude, so people are really getting creative now,
Yeah.
huh? That would be pretty cool to see that in real life with a Jeep. I think the Jeep honestly has Miles and his buddies beat, but it's still sweet.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
That's crazy. Brian Forrester waved and said hello. Is anybody chiming in on your watch party? It's I think we only got a minute or so till Miles calls in, but it's going to be cool to talk to him about that. Like, where do you even come up with ideas like that?
I know. I guess maybe you see the backwoods hillbilly with the tire to the tree, and then you're like, well, why don't we tie something to the tire like a motorcycle?
But so the kids got creative, man. I love seeing that imagination. It's pretty rad. Yeah, so please comment in when Chris comes on too, and ask questions and see what kind of stuff we can get. He's also a mastermind when it comes to engines and stuff like that. So it'll be really cool to get his insight to how championships are won and all the good stuff that he's done, man. He has done so much cool stuff. It's just really neat, man, to see. He helped me out when we first got our Yamaha YXZ program together in 2016, and he flashed at ECU for us, and it was fantastic, man. It worked really good. But we ended up going with the Yamaha stuff afterwards because that's just the way the business portion of it worked. But he was tuning a guy named Brandon Arthur, a fast racer, Brandon Arthur, who I actually want to get on the show too. He drives a Pro Light, a Pro 2. I think he's even driven a Pro 4, and he was racing UTVs at the time, and he was tuning his car, and his car was wicked fast. So
Sweet.
It's cool to see. And he just knows a lot about motors and just tuning everything, man. It's really cool. I would love to be able to pick his brain, but I don't think I'll be able to understand 90% of it. You might be a little bit better at understanding some of the stuff that he'll talk about if he gets into technical stuff. You could probably understand it better, too, because with the radio control stuff, when you talk about motors. But
right.
It'll be neat to talk to him about it. Anyways, I don't know what we got Miles G calling in right now. So, Miles, what's going down, dude?
What's going on?
Oh, just enjoying this COVID stuff. We the computer that we have running some of the live stream stuff got the coronavirus today, so we had to fix it. We're 10 minutes late starting the show.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I can kind of hear it going on my dad's phone in the other room.
Yeah, it's good. So we cured the corona on the computer, so we're good.
Perfect.
What's going on with you, man? How you guys holding up in California?
Besides the dirt bike swing.
Going good. It ain't too bad, really. Just grocery stores and stuff like that. You just got to wear the mask and all that,
Yeah, exactly. Oh, are you mandated to wear a mask in California?
Yeah, if you go inside any stores. Or I'm not, I think it's more by the county.
Oh, okay.
But, yeah, they're handing out fines and stuff.
Damn, that sucks. But you're not getting a fine because you're all good to go, right?
Oh, yeah. We're all squared away over here.
Right on, man. Well, what have you guys been doing? We saw that video. I was just telling Casey about it. So you guys tied a KLX 110 to a tree, and we're using that, like, swinging it like a pendulum, huh?
Yeah, I don't know how long ago it started, but it was just like a bicycle on it forever over at my buddy Parker Porter's house. He had that thing set up probably when he was like 10 years old, but yeah, like 2 or 3 days ago, my buddy Colin brought his 110 over and just like, here, let's tie it up to it real quick.
Dude, you sent me that.
Yeah, Colin's a straight nut, though. He's like that kid that can make anything work, so I don't even know how he could rotate once he got to the ground, but
Yeah, and he was like, it was almost like he was doing a half pipe. Like, he got so freaking high on the sides. Like, I saw like how high he got, and I thought he was gonna clip that tree.
Oh, well, there's another video of him doing like a little tire tap off it.
No way.
Nice.
Yeah.
Dude, that's sweet. And when I was telling Casey about it, he said that he saw a video of a guy that tied up a Jeep and went like forward and reverse, like the same pendulum kind
Oh,
of
no
thing.
way.
Yeah, it was some kind of 4x. I can't remember if it was a Jeep or not, but yeah, it was pretty nuts.
So
That would be pretty cool.
maybe you find a tree and you can do that with the razor.
There you go.
That'd be pretty legit.
Dude, see if your dad will let you do it at the shop, man. Tie it up to one of the lifts.
Oh, we can figure out something there.
Well, I wanted to talk to you a little bit and see how things were going over there, and I also wanted to get a little bit of info on our good featured guest tonight, Chris Hawks. Man, he's helped you out a lot, hasn't he?
Oh yeah, Chris is the man. He's a big factor to our program. He will go down there and he'll spend 6+ hours with that car on the dyno, just checking every little thing, making sure it's perfect to go. So no, he's took our program like good to great for sure.
And the devil is in the details with that kind of stuff, right? Like you can't just get it on there, make it say, oh, it's good enough. He's always trying to get more, right?
Oh, he's a full-on perfectionist. So it goes good with how my dad and my crew chief Tim like to run things too. So when those three get together, they just start clicking.
Yeah, that's super cool, man. Did you notice a big difference after he started getting in your program with the performance of the car?
Yeah, like before we were having some problems like fuel pump, it was shutting off on us. So he got in there, told us like kind of what was going on, then took it down to his dyno, and we already picked up like a few horsepower in that same day. So we were instantly sold on him.
Yeah, that's cool. And you've been working with him for how long now?
I want to say 3-4 years.
Holy cow, man. So you guys have a good relationship then. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, then just this last year, we were having a little bit of clutch problems in the RS1 when we took it out to Firebird. And he came over, gave us, he pretty much pointed us like in the perfect direction to go. We threw the different weights in there, and I led practically the whole race, gave it up with 2 laps to go, but that was just first time in the car, so
yeah, well, that's
a couple bugs to work out of it.
That's pretty strong to come out with a brand new car like that good, you know what I mean? So it just goes to show obviously how much expertise and knowledge he has. Has he told you any funny stories or any like stuff that you can remember in the past that you really were into?
Oh,
because dude, I want to ask him some questions about like dirt bike stuff.
Oh, we haven't. I just saw that the other day. Something that you posted that he was working with all the Honda guys and stuff.
Yeah, that's what I want to get into.
So
dude.
that was kind of new for me too. When I saw you post that, I didn't know that he was involved with all that stuff.
Dude, yeah, so that's like, it got me really fired up. Like, I was like, hell yeah, I want to like see what he's got going. And I read a little bit of that post that he sent me. He sent me a picture, and on the bottom it said like the dirt bike was like a test dirt bike or something, and it was worth like $500,000 or something.
Jeez.
Like insane.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so I want to ask him about that and see what the deal is. All right, well, I appreciate you calling in, man. Do you guys have any plans to make any more good quarantine food since you're going to be your chef self?
I haven't really been doing anything too crazy lately. My mom's been cooking a lot, so that's been kind of nice.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Is she teaching you the ropes still?
Oh yeah, so she's got it down pretty good too.
Hell yeah. Well, yeah, please tell your family I said, or we said hello, Casey and I, and stay safe, bud.
Oh yeah, we'll do. And just one last little thing. Me and 4 Wheel Parts just teamed up, so we'll be working together for this year.
Oh wow!
And, hopefully for a few more.
Did you sell them on your cooking? Is that what it was?
Yeah.
I hope so.
The return on the investment is tacos.
Yeah, nice.
Well, hey, so before we hang up then, I'm glad that you mentioned that. So 4 Wheel Parts is going to be a part of your program. What was the so we were talking about it last week, and we're talking about return on investment for sponsors, right? So it's hard for people to get new sponsors unless you're doing something good and they're really interested, and you're not racing right now, so it might be harder for you to give it back to the sponsors that you have. Bringing on a new sponsor is pretty gnarly. Like, can you give us a little bit of insight as to how that worked out for you? If you don't want to get into any of the small detailed stuff, you don't have to, but it maybe a little bit.
Yeah, it's just relations. I've known a couple of the guys over there for a few years now, and just built that relationship with them up for a while now. So just start out kind of as friends with the guys. Don't always push just like, hey, like, what can you do for me? But just hang out with the guys, like see if they want to go get some tacos or something instead of just talk about racing all the time, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Because they are people, and man, they have a lot to work on too. Like, it's just not all one racer's program.
Yeah, and don't want to say it's kind of like a job for them because they obviously love what they do too, but I'm sure they like to talk about other stuff also. So
yeah, exactly.
Definitely. Good point.
Just try to build relationships with them, I guess.
That makes a really good point. And then just post like pendulum mini bike swings and tag them online.
Totally.
Exactly.
All right. Well,
always
dude,
got to have the content.
That's awesome, man. I'm really pumped for you. 4 Wheel Parts is a fantastic company, and I'm glad that you're going to be a part of their team. They've got some really awesome drivers over there, and it's going to be cool to see you join them.
Oh, yeah, I'm so excited to be joining their family.
Well, congratulations on that, bud. I'm glad that you were able to tell us here and announce it. So, like I said, stay safe and eat some good food with your mom. Tell the family we said hello.
How about some quick cooking
Will
videos?
do. You guys stay safe as well.
Yeah, why don't you hook us up with some quick cooking videos
pretty cool.
in this downtime? I know you can whip up something awesome.
All right.
I'll send over a few recipes.
Perfect.
Your return on the investment for the Dirt Life show.
Yeah, there you go.
Exactly.
Quick little 5-minute sped up or 2-minute whatever
little
sped
tutorial.
up. Yeah, sped up version of how the great taco comes to life.
Perfect.
Thanks so much, Miles. I appreciate it, man. Like I said, stay safe and tell the family hello.
Of course.
All right, bud. See you.
Bye.
So I had John Smith say what's up. John Smith is an old racing buddy from the RC days, and he's also quite the badass, if I can say.
Yeah, that's
I'll just
awesome.
say that. And then remember John Rogers? John Rogers says hey too.
Right on. And I got Dusty Tierra saying what's up too. So what's up, Dusty?
Both great guys.
All right. Well, let's without further ado, let's go to a commercial break, and we will come back with our featured guest, Chris Hawks. We'll see you guys in a second.
Hello, I'm Justin, the founder of Shock Therapy. Shock Therapy has been around for 5 years, but we have personally been tuning suspension on off-road cars and race vehicles for over 25 years. We tune between 10 and 15 cars per day, every single day of the week. Our concentration is tuning shock systems and supplying components that improve the ride quality of your car in many ways. Not only do we work on the average UTV, but we also tune suspension for race teams and professional drivers. We currently tune for over 87 race teams in Best in the Desert and SCORE. Our clients and race teams rely on our suspension components to allow them to win races and keep them safe. Suspension is a moving target. We are always trying to hit that target with every customer that we work with. Each customer's needs can be different, and we tune our kits accordingly. Our research and development never stops. We improve our components every single day. As the industry evolves and improves, so do our parts and kits. As of right now, we have over 100 products for UTVs. So when you bring your car to us, you have the satisfaction of knowing that you have the most experience, the highest quality products, and the fact that your car is being tuned specifically to you.
Yeah, finally, we got Lance from Solderweld in the studio. Thanks for coming down, bud. Hey, why don't we just record a commercial now?
Yeah, why not? So good to be here, man. It's been a lot. I'm trying to get down here forever, and I wanted to talk about the off-road kit.
Dude, I love those things. I got it in my pack.
Yeah, we're running hundreds of vehicles now running them, whether it's a UTV or some guy's got it in a backpack on his motocross. He's got everything he needs to make a fix right there on the fly, out on the trail, or in the desert, whatever it is.
Well, since I've already used one, I kind of know what to use it for, but explain what it does.
All right, so let's pull one out real quick. You've got your aluminum rods. Remember, they're rods, right? So, light torch, small torch. You can throw it in there or throw it on the rig with your flux. It decontaminates and cleans like, let's say, a radiator. You get a random rock chip runs through as you're racing. You get a rock chip in a radiator. You got to fix it right there or you're out of the race.
You can patch it up.
Patch it up. It's all good to go.
Yep, just like welding.
Yeah, also as well with that, you've got a brake line fix. So with your flux, you can fix a brake line, stainless steel, and then your hot block, heat absorption putty. So it keeps you from getting burned, number one, as well as keeps the heat from traveling. So it's really nice.
I've used this not even to fix anything, so that stuff works so good, man.
Listen, it's easy. It straps in nicely so that you have everything you need in one little place, and you don't have to carry a big bag in
It's like a first aid kit for your vehicle.
Yeah, chase trucks have it as well, so that if they need to make a fix on the fly, they can get it done and get it done quick and get you back in the race.
Dude, those things are so cool. All right, so it's at Solderweld on Instagram, Facebook, and solderweld.com.
Awesome.
All right, thanks, bud.
Appreciate it.
Zollinger Racing builds the best aftermarket products available. Products for your UTV or snowmobile, including billet radius rods, billet tie rods, billet steering knuckles, billet steering racks, alternator kits, and much more. All manufactured in the United States in-house at their headquarters in Nibley, Utah. Travis Zollinger and his team test in some of the most brutal conditions, racing in places like the Best in the Desert Mint 400, Ultra 4 King of the Hammers, UTV World Championships, and many more. Visit ZollingerRacingProducts.com and use the code DIRTLIFE to get 10% off your next purchase, and join us on social media at Zollinger Racing Products to see our products in action. Zollinger Racing, the best products, period.
What's up, everybody? George is getting Chris on the line right now, and I'll take a second to say what's up to everybody on my Facebook stream. Mr. Swanson, how you doing, buddy? DinoJet Matt. DinoJet Matt is saying what's up, and we are saying hello, sir. Pretty cool product. The Wizard right here, Benchmark, has been on top of the game for a long time. Thanks for that, DinoJet Matt. We are almost ready. We thought we had cleared Corona out of our computer systems, but we think we have a little bit more going on here. All right, we're coming. Yes, sir, Andrew Swanson. We are ready to get back to racing as well, dude. Everybody's itching.
Sorry, guys, for the little hiccup. Seems like tonight we got all of our issues going down, man. Chris Hawks, what's going down, bud? How are you?
Good, yourself?
We're doing awesome, man. It looks like you might have I don't know if you know how to use your son's iPhone, but he has the lock button, the rotation button on the phone.
He's deflating.
No, man, I'm not iPhone savvy, so.
If you, we can go through a tech support issue right now, but if you want, you can just turn it right side up. That's fine too.
What do you guys see right now? Do you see my lock screen?
We don't see your lock screen. We see it says paused on there right now, but you can just turn it right side up. We can still see you good.
Well, I can't see you. If you give me 1 second here.
Yeah, no worries,
see
man.
If I get this.
we were just talking about, you don't have to chime in, you can work on that stuff, but we were just talking about having some fun in the shop and what all these guys are doing with quarantine. It seems like there's a lot of people, Casey and I noticed a lot of people that were just doing all kinds of fun stuff in the garage, getting their whips all dialed in, and it's just awesome, man. Down at Jet, Matt says, that's how I looked one lap of my
There we go. Sweet. Oh.
Can you guys hear me again?
You can flip your phone straight up and down like the normal way. Yeah, that's fine.
Nice.
So how's things going out there, bud?
Not bad. A little break from the rain finally. We've had an unbelievable amount of rain in Southern California, which I know other people have too.
Yeah, dude, 100%. My sister lives out in Los Angeles, and she was complaining about the same thing. So, for our audience members that don't know who you are, we're stoked to have you, Chris. Chris Hawks is the owner of Benchmark Performance. He has been in the motorsports industry for a long, long time. He's a veteran tuner. He can tune pretty much anything: trucks, dirt bikes, cars, side-by-sides. He has done a lot of stuff for the Lucas Off-Road Racers. He's worked with guys like Brandon Arthur. He's worked with Miles Cheek. He's worked with a bunch of the younger kids. He's now helping his son do a bunch of stuff. I saw him at the Works races, and he's starting to help out those guys. He, and be known to me, or I didn't know this before, but he's worked with some of the Japanese engineers as well on some motorcycle stuff. So for all you audience members that don't know, Chris lives in Southern California, and we would definitely like to get a little bit more into it with him. But welcome Chris Hawks to the show.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate the intro. Super stoked to be on.
Yeah, well, thank you for taking the time, man. I know you've been slammed with work. How's things going out there in Southern California for work?
Surprisingly well. It's definitely slowed some, but we really only had 1 week where it was, we never ran out of work. We never got to work. We're twiddling our thumbs, but only 1 week where I'd call it really slow, and it's shockingly good right now. I'm super blessed for that. I thought it was going to be slower than this, and I'm blessed to have a bunch of work. So thank you, everybody.
Yeah, that is super cool. When I talked to you earlier this week, I was thinking the same thing. Like, how rad is that all these people are doing? And that's why we had the topic today of what people are doing in their garages, how they're tuning things up and making all their stuff go faster and just getting everything going. And now that the race season is on hold, in quotes, everybody can even do more preparation. So it's pretty rad.
Absolutely, and there's so many race series when you're talking about racing with UTVs, especially that are going on right now, even just in Southern California, that the schedule's been daunting, and a lot of these racers do more than one series, and it's really challenging to get the cars ready for each round. And I'll be honest, there's a couple of cars that we either work on or assist working on that this break has been a blessing, because I don't know how we would have pulled it off.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah, I mean, there's just the schedule is crazy, and when there's just I think there was a 6-week period where there was only one weekend that was going to be a break, so it's just nuts.
That is pretty cool, though. It's neat to see that they have all these series available for people, though, too. That's pretty bitchin'.
And that stuff's all pretty much local out there, or not local, but to the state for the most part, or
well,
not
I think
really?
Southern California is definitely doing a better job than most other states, but well, you can probably be a better judge of that, Chris.
Well, I mean, obviously we have Lucas Oil, which didn't get kicked off, but we have that. We do have the Lucas Regionals, which did have round 1 and 2. And then we have Works, we have the Dirt Series, and then you have the GBC Series at Glen Helen now. There's NorCal side-by-side. There's just a whole bunch of options for people to race.
That is super cool. We got a couple comments coming in. Eve Star Racing said the best in the business, and Dino Jet Matt says you raised the bar for sure. Well, I agree with both of those comments. I said it earlier on the show that when we first started our YXZ program, you were kind of new to the YXZs, and this was in early 2016 maybe, and you guys smoked us. You and Brandon Arthur, your driver, you guys wasted us going down the straightaways, and I walked up to you and I said, dude, can you help out? And you were able to flash my ECU and get me up to speed for the next round. So that was pretty sweet, man, that you helped out. I still, to this day, remember how cool that was of you to do it.
I remember that, and we love helping people. That's why we do this.
Yeah, it's cool. Well, let's get a little bit into your backstory then, so we can understand who you really are and why you like helping people so much. So, did you grow up racing or riding, like your dad, your mom?
Yeah, I got tons of stories I can give you. So we'll see how far you want to go down the rabbit hole. But yeah, I grew up around, let's just say, motorsports and power sports vehicles. I didn't necessarily grow up in racing. Nobody in my family raced professionally. But my grandfather on my mom's side, he was let's just call him a gearhead. He actually was an engineer at like Garrett Allied Signal. He made pneumatic valves for the space program in the 60s.
Wow.
But he was into buggies, boats, motorcycles, Jeeps, you name it. And so he was a full-on outdoors off-road guy. My mom grew up doing that stuff. Obviously, growing up in his family, my mom water ski raced, went to the desert, all that. And then my dad, he's always been into cars and motorcycles and all that too. In fact, my first, well, he's not here to get it totally correct, but at 18 months old, I was riding on the tank of his 71 Kawasaki F7, holding onto the handlebars in the dunes at Buttercup.
At 8 months? Holy smokes, man.
Awesome.
Yeah. 18 months, yep. So,
18 months. 18 months.
I had exposure to off-road and motorsport stuff early on. And so we had three-wheelers. 74 Honda MR50 was my first dirt bike. That was a air-cooled 3-speed manual clutch, 2-stroke.
Sweet.
And then it just grew from there. But let's see. I'll tell you a little bit about. I know you're going to ask about Honda later on, and so we'll probably have a lot of good stories there. But
well, before we get into that, like, because I like to understand the person that you are now. I know you're a hard worker, right? So, like, I like to reverse engineer that sometimes with the people that we have on the show. Did your dad or whoever got you that dirt bike, I think you said it was a 74 Honda 80, is that what he said?
MR50.
MR50, that's what it was. It was one of those things where if you can kick it and work on it, you can ride it kind of thing, or like maintain it? Like, did he start teaching it early?
So my dad's always worked on stuff himself. My dad's mechanically inclined. He's never worked on anything for a living, but he's super mechanically inclined, and he definitely taught me a lot. But he really didn't dangle it as like a reward where I needed to work on it. I just always had the desire. I mean, he'll tell stories of we had like a Simple Simon, and which is a little electronic game that people remember from the 80s. And I took it apart. And if I had an alarm clock, I took it apart. We had these little, they were called stompers, again in the early 80s, these little battery-powered trucks with the foam tires and all that. I took them apart. So I probably drove him nuts because I took everything apart, and early on I couldn't put much of it back together. But I just kind of always was drawn to the mechanical side of it. Of course, I love driving them and racing and all that too, but I like the actual working on them in the mechanical aspect as much as anything.
Yeah, and I think that really resonates with both Casey and I because we like doing the same thing. Neither of us are on a level like you are, but it started out like that, and that's the reason I asked that question because we were pretty much, well, I don't want to say forced because our dads did get us the dirt bikes and we wanted to ride them, but we were forced to work on everything ourselves and just had a good time just like you did. And that's if people don't understand, like, you can look back on it now and know wholeheartedly how much that taught you for the rest of your life. You know what I mean? So that's one of the reasons that we actually started the Dirt Life Show was because we want to know all the people in the industry, right? That can understand their stories just like we're doing with you tonight. And a lot of that stuff starts really at that young age.
Yep, absolutely. A lot of great memories learning and doing that stuff. And, not everybody has the I don't know, natural mechanical aptitude to pick the stuff up. Everybody has different gifts.
Yep.
This happens to be my, but for anybody who's scared of the stuff, don't be. I mean, just get your hands dirty, and you learn from making mistakes. You were talking on my intro about some of the people I've worked with, and I was just going to say, I'm blessed to work with all these great drivers, and appreciate being able to be involved in the I guess the credit, but man, I think a lot more goes to the rest of the program than my little piece. So anyway, again, my point is just if people are interested in mechanical stuff, just get in there and get started.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and don't, give yourself a pat on the back too, because there's a lot of tuners out there, right? And these drivers don't have to pick you, but they do because of what you do, and you're very good at it. So give yourselves a little kudos for that. And, we got a couple comments too here that Kendall Scheidecker said, Chris is absolutely the best. He's helped out his program tremendously. So, all of those little things, I mean, Kendall might not be at the level of Brandon Arthur, but he's a fantastic driver. He's done stuff in the circle track industry, and he trusts you to work on his car. So, make sure you're being a little humble, but make sure you know your value too, man. You're still kicking ass.
I appreciate it very much, guys. I apologize on the camera. I'm outside and it's a little chilly.
Yeah, no worries. Well, you're going to be there for a little bit. You need to get another jacket?
Yeah.
I'm good. Let's do this.
So, Chris, I appreciate the advice to the youngins or anybody who's not really jumped into that, we'll call it the realm of mechanics. But the only thing I'll add, and I would bet there's a story that you could come up with, of don't leave your dad's tools out in the rain. Because this guy did that before. And you only have to do it once. And then you respect the tools, and you hope you pass that down to who you're helping with the tools. Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah, I'm going through that myself. My son is 11, and mechanical things may not be his gift. He's a good driver and good at all kinds of other stuff. He's good at music and things that I'm not good at. He's good at sports. I'm not good at that. But he's definitely good at figuring out how to leave the tools out.
Nice. Just don't leave them in the rain. We got a comment from Todd McGill that said Chris was porting and polishing his Banshee motor when he was 16 years old. Sounds like a pretty cool story.
Yeah, I was actually trying to find a photo to send you for the intro to the show. My high school experience is probably key to my story, and we'll talk about that. But yeah, somewhere there's a picture of me with a Banshee cylinder on the bench with a air-powered die grinder hogging the intake ports out. And yep, he's right. I ported my own Banshee cylinders.
Right on. Did you really, being 16, did you understand what edges and where to actually port it and what to push through, or did you just go for it?
Oh, I knew some of it, but I certainly don't know what I know today, and I still don't know anything. And probably in the big picture from an engineering standpoint on a two-stroke with port timing, but I had seen a cylinder that was ported by a reputable company that had been blown up, and so I got some clues from that. And it's hard to recollect, your exact level of knowledge from then. I certainly didn't know it all, but I wasn't scared to try it.
Yeah, that's good. Like you just said, don't be scared to get in there and do it. So, yeah, Caden Danbury says Chris has taught us so much. You're lucky to have him part of your program. He's lucky to have him on his program. And Eve Star Racing also said he keeps my program running strong. He's a big part of our team. So those are people that I didn't actually know that you helped out, but I've seen you helping some very big teams, and I always see you super, super busy at the races. When you were 16 and you were going into this, did you understand how much I don't know if work is the right word, but how many people you were going to touch and how busy you would be doing this stuff when you were younger?
No, I had no idea. And honestly, I didn't know or even really dream about having a business like this. My dream was to work for Honda. And I don't know how I got connected to Honda as a brand. I mean, certainly we owned a bunch of them as a kid, but I mean, I grew up following motocross in the 80s. Rick Johnson, Jeff Stanton, Jeremy McGrath, all the names. There's a bunch of them that raced all the 80s Honda motocross stuff. And so I was a fan, and I just wanted to work for Honda. I felt like Honda had the best products. And honestly, I didn't have a plan. I didn't know how I was going to do it. But my high school thing that your person that typed in, Todd McGill, is part of the way that it happened. And Can I tell you a little bit about that?
Yeah, please do. And before you jump into that, though, for the audience members that don't know, maybe some of them are younger, Honda back in the 80s and 90s was like not just a little bit better. They were like miles better than all of the other brands. Like if you ever wanted to be a part of any racing program in those decades, you always wanted to ride red. That was the only thing that you wanted. Like every single person wanted that. And almost 9 out of 10 championships came from Honda in the dirt bike racing world. So
it was like the Chicago Bulls dynasty.
Yeah, exactly.
Same idea.
Same kind of thing. So
100% agree.
When Chris says that he wanted to be a part of Honda, I don't see there was any bigger dream, man. Yeah. That's awesome. So yeah, let's dig into it.
So I'm not actually going to go to Honda yet. I know you're holding me off a bit on that. So there's an intermediate story to get to Honda.
Sweet.
So it goes back to the high school thing. So I live in Ramona, California, a little Southern California town in the foothills of San Diego. And I was fortunate to have a high school here that had an unbelievable automotive program. And at the time, my high school teacher, Mike Jordan, competed in something at the time called VICA. It stood for Vocational Industrial Clubs of America. It's still around today under another name. It's now called Skills USA. But it's basically vocational skill Olympics. And so they have things like commercial baking, construction, jet aircraft mechanics. I mean, anything that's a vocation that you can do with your hands, they have a competition for. And so I was in the auto program here at our high school, and I did compete in some of the automotive competitions. I never won any of the top competitions. One of them I'll tell you about connects to Honda here in a minute, but VICA did end up having a motorcycle competition. And my high school didn't have a motorcycle program at the time, but my teacher, Mr. Jordan, knew that I was really good with motorcycles. And so he entered me in the motorcycle competition.
Nice.
And so the way that it works is you start out going to a regional competition. And in motorcycles, I think the regional may have just been a written test initially. And then you have to do a presentation. So I remember that I chose a clutch for my presentation. So I had a clutch basket, the center hub, all the plates, the pressure plate, etc., from some type of motorcycle, and I had to present the clutch or my product or item that I chose to the judges and explain how it worked. And so the winners of each level of competition move on to the next level. So I made it to the state level. I forget what year. I think a junior. I made it to the state level.
Dang.
And I think I might have medaled, but I didn't win that year. And so my senior year, I just kind of took a break from competing, and I did some other competitions, but I took a break from VICA. And so I graduated high school, and I was working at a local automotive repair shop as like a smog technician, just working on cars. And my high school auto shop teacher showed up one day again, and my wife's bringing me a blanket. She must see me shivering.
Nice.
Thanks, babe.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Anyhow, he signed me up for post-secondary competition. That's basically college level. And he didn't even ask me if I wanted to do it. He literally just showed up at my work and said, "Hey, I signed you up for post-secondary."
It sounds like he really saw some star in you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, he's unbelievable. He was a great teacher and mentor. I'm still good friends with him today. He's retired now, but he's still involved with teaching kids. And yeah, so he just signed me up. And I got to say, I probably wasn't super self-motivated to go compete, but I wasn't against it either. And so I ended up going again and competed in post-secondary, and I ended up going all the way to the national competition. So I won the state competition, went to the national competition, which was in Kansas City, Missouri, and represented California there, and I won the national competition.
Dude, sweet. That's awesome. And so
yeah, it was
you were still pretty young.
Go ahead. Yeah, I was just the first year out of high school, so probably 18. And I remember being intimidated because I was competing against guys that were in their 30s and 40s that worked at motorcycle dealerships full time, and guys that had what I thought a lot more experience than me, but I ended up winning.
Dude, that is sweet. I love hearing stories like that because you're going in as the underdog, and it's not just the underdog story. It's like you really, really have to prepare, and you have to be mentally like tough to be able to get in there and do that. It's like, how are you going to go and beat Michael Jordan's records if you go in there without the energy to do it? That's bitching, man.
Yeah, and so since then, we'll jump around a bit here, but later on, I don't know how many years later, but while I was working for Honda, I actually got to go back to Kansas City again as a judge and be able to be on the other side of the coin. And that was really neat and rewarding as well.
Yeah, how was that?
Absolutely.
Was that cool? Because to see all the young guys doing it?
It was super neat. And it's interesting seeing the type of mistakes that were made both by myself and by my competitors when I did it, and then when I was a judge, and then seeing some of the kids that still go do it now. And like one of the things is electrical. Seems like just maybe in our country in general, I know I'm generalizing, but electrical stuff seems to be weak for people's ability to understand and to troubleshoot. And so that's definitely a field where if you're working on this power sports stuff, if you bone up on some knowledge there, you're going to stand out from the crowd.
Yeah, 100. Well, and 12-volt stuff is way different than like the households, 110, 220. Like every time I have anything wrong with my house, I call my co-host Casey over here because I have no idea what I'm talking about. The 12-volt stuff, I don't get too bad, but I'm still very, very novice compared to most of the guys that you're talking about. So, okay, so take a step back after you won the event. What was it called again? The VICA, yeah.
Yeah, VICA. So for winning the competition, I got a big Snap-on toolbox.
Dang.
A Harley Davidson motorcycle that was donated to my school.
Nice.
I got a full ride scholarship to MMI, Motorcycle Mechanics Institute, which at the time they only had one campus in Phoenix, Arizona. Mm-hmm. And then I also won a 30-day internship to American Honda.
Whoa!
So cool. Dreams realized all of a sudden.
Yeah, so that was amazing. And so I won the competition, came home, and I don't remember the exact time frame, but pretty fast. I packed up. My mom and dad moved me to Phoenix, got a little studio apartment, and started at MMI. And then even at MMI, got to do some pretty neat deal where instead of taking the whole program, because of where I'd come from and how I got there, they let me take a test, and I basically tested out of the first 6 months of the school.
Oh, dude, that's perfect.
Nice.
So if you don't mind, I'd like to mention something real quick. The way that it all transpired, right? Like, first of all, you got to give back to your school. So your teacher saw something special in you and enrolled you into doing this thing that you would have never done by yourself. It's funny how fate twists like sometimes like this, right? And then so you go, and then your whole dream of getting to American Honda was realized, and you wouldn't have even had that opportunity had he not kicked you in the butt to be able to do it, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. He was a huge part of my success.
Dude, that is super cool. And I'm sure he didn't even know if you were going to win or anything either. He just saw something in you that was like, okay, I got to drive this kid at the time to be able to go and do it. So, man, that is super, super cool. And I can relate to you with the school stuff. I hate school. Like, I cannot stand it, right? But I was able to do something very similar when I started doing the computer stuff because of my mechanical knowledge as well. So it was really neat to be able to have those opportunities because when you have an opportunity to skip ahead in school, it's like a freaking paycheck of time. It's like, sweet, I don't have to worry about any of that stuff.
Exactly, no doubt.
Yep, absolutely. So I went to MMI, tested out of the first 6 months of the program, and initially I had a job there working at a car wash place. I was a lube tech, so I was the guy putting oil in the cars.
Nice.
And then went to school on the night program. And then while I was working at this place called Car Wash Plex, a guy came in with I forget what it is, maybe a Mitsubishi 3000 GT or some kind of a nicer car at the time. This is in like 1994. And he had a CBR 900 shirt on, I noticed. And I made a comment to him about his shirt he was wearing, and it turned out he was one of the gym managers from a local motorcycle dealership. And I mentioned to him that I had applied for a job there and never heard back. And he told me, well, come in and turn in another job application. And guess what? I ended up getting a job at the dealer there in Phoenix. And so then I worked at a motorcycle shop while I went to MMI.
Oh, nice. That's two huge goals realized, right?
Getting closer.
Yeah.
I can feel it.
Yep.
Yeah. And then so like when I worked at the motorcycle dealership, I was just a lot boy at first. So, I pushed motorcycles, polished them with a rag to keep them clean, all that kind of stuff. That dealership was building bikes in one of the bays out of the crates, and I remember that the tech that would do it, he was getting paid by the bike, and he would just scatter the bolts out of the metal crates at the time everywhere, and I'd pick them up off the floor and just whatever they wanted me to do. But I ended up being a service writer there over the time that I was there while I was going to school, and that was a great experience too, dealing with customers and hearing, everybody communicates different. So hearing how somebody describes an issue or a concern and just having to learn to communicate with them.
Yeah, that was probably a big deal too. Like, and some of that is like, you can have like, I don't know, a genius in mechanical engineering, right? But he can't speak a normal language to a normal human being, right? And,
it's the hardest part with racers too.
Yeah, and that's what I was trying to get to. Like, I was figuring out how to say it, but like racers aren't always the easiest to communicate with. Like, I don't know, it's just not going fast.
Right. It doesn't turn.
Yeah. And so is it understeer, oversteer? I don't know. It just doesn't turn. Right. Yeah. So it's that's a very, very valuable thing to learn, and especially in a dealership environment because you have everybody under the sun coming in.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And then don't have a relationship to him, but just to like drop a name, Destry Abbott worked at the same dealer way back when, and he's obviously huge in off-road motorcycle racing.
Yep.
Yeah, we used to get waxed by Destry all the time.
Yeah, so we were quite a few years behind Destry when we were growing up and stuff, but Destry was always one of the pros that we looked up to because he's an Arizona guy too.
Yep, exactly. So went through the MMI program, and then I took they called it HonTech, but basically at the end of the school you can have some electives you can take. So I'd signed up for some Honda specific training, and I also signed up for it was called Yama Pro, and it was Yamaha specific training.
Ooh, that's cool.
And I was almost done with the Honda portion of the program, hadn't done the Yamaha yet, and was contacted by a representative at American Honda saying that some things had changed at the company, some people had moved around, and they basically wanted me to come right away. And so I had to decide if I was going to finish the Yamaha program at MMI or just go to Honda if they wanted me to come. And I ended up deciding to skip the Yamaha program and went straight to Honda.
Wow, that was probably a pretty tough decision at the time, though, huh?
It was, because it was only a 30-day internship, which was an unbelievable opportunity, but it was no job guarantee. Mm-hmm. And, I still didn't know what all went on at Honda or what I'd be doing there in my internship. I really had no clue. But I just felt like I couldn't say no to them when they asked me to come soon. So I went ahead and went, and sort of like moving to Phoenix, packed up and moved to Torrance, California. Excuse me. And started my internship. And so at American Honda, they have it's called a service shop. And basically, there's all different branches of the company that have their own sort of fleet of motorcycles. So like you've got the press department, which is obvious. So they've got all their magazine test bikes, advertising, which has got all the vehicles they use for photo shoots and brochures, things like that. Even the legal department has vehicles. There's all these different groups that have vehicles. And so the service shop is like an internal motorcycle shop that services all the different branches of the company. And so it turned out I was going to be a technician in that shop.
So that means you get to see everything that comes through?
Yeah, that's correct. And so one really incredible thing about working in there is you're working on pretty much brand new stuff all the time.
That's cool.
And I'm sure you guys have seen the Honda race shop and other places, and the service shop there is absolutely immaculate. And so it was it was really neat to work there. One of the biggest changes coming from the dealership, even though I wasn't a technician at the dealership versus being a technician at a Honda, but was when I came in there, I was kind of hurrying all the time when I was working on the jobs. And I remember the other technicians in there were telling me, slow down. What are you going so fast for?
Yeah.
And, part of it is there isn't the same, certainly there's deadlines and things, but you don't have a regular customer, I'm going to say, breathing down your neck to get something done by a certain time. And so with Honda, it was all about quality. And so everything had to be done right and done right the first time. So instead of, they didn't want you to rush through it. They want you to take your time and do it perfect.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, though, because the quality instead of quantity, the type thing, and the dealership is, and I don't mean to badmouth dealerships, but the dealerships are usually the opposite, quantity instead of quality. You know what I mean? Just get it out, get it out, get it out. So that's a good learning experience, though, especially knowing what I know you do now, working on individuals' cars. There's obviously time crunches because people need to get things done, but you learned at that point that making it perfect is always the way to go.
Yeah, absolutely. More often than not, if you don't, it'll end up biting you later on. So try to do the best job that we can the first time, and we make mistakes, but just try to do as good of a job every time we can. That's the goal.
Yeah, exactly. We had a couple people comment in. What's up, Hunter? How are you doing, man? And then Mick Bangalore says, is this live? Yes, it is. It is live, but it will be archived. So if you need to bail out and go eat dinner, you can come back and check it out. We've got our featured guest, Chris Hawks, on tonight. He's with Benchmark Performance. He does a lot of tuning for the off-road industry, and now side-by-sides have gotten a lot more popular, so he's doing a lot of work with side-by-sides as well. All right, well, let's continue with where you went from there. So you're working in Honda and enjoying it, I guess, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. I loved it. And just again, I don't think it's stroke of luck. I think God had his hand in it on leading me to where I'm at. But for instance, I started in March of '95 is when I started at Honda, and I worked in, it was called door number 8. And coincidentally, on the same day that I started at Honda, a guy by the name of Johnny Campbell started at Honda.
Oh, and, nice.
Never heard of him. Just kidding. That's awesome.
So Johnny worked in door number 7, and same building as me, but he was there for the off-road race program under Bruce Ogilvie. And so I met Johnny that first week I was there, and he and I are real similar in age, so we immediately hit it off and became friends. And since I was interested in racing, I was always going over into their shop and bugging them and visiting and seeing what they're doing. And wasn't long, and Bruce pulled me into their program. Now, it was never a part of my actual job. This is all extracurricular that I did with racing with them, but did a bunch of Baja and Nevada desert racing with Bruce and Johnny and a bunch of other guys. That bike that you saw is part of that, and we'll talk about that. But yeah, just super fortunate to, same thing, just be there at that time and be around those people. And they recognized I got some qualities in me that they wanted to have me around. So
yeah,
very thankful for that.
And well, I agree with you. What you're saying is like fate has a crazy way of putting you in places that it wants to, right? But there's also a lot of hard work that goes into it, right? So if you hadn't put in all the hard work, if certain things didn't happen to get up to that point, and again, I know you're trying to be humble, but you're smart as heck. Like, so having those things and having people understand and see those qualities is really what led you to those points. And obviously, those turns that you had to make to get to that point was pretty freaking cool. I always tell everybody, because they always ask, how do you get to the point where you get sponsors? How do you get to racing and stuff like that? The thing that you have to do the most is put yourself in a position to do it. And then you have to do it and execute on top of it. If you don't do those types of things, then you'll never, ever see it. And Chris was fortunate and hardworking at the same time. So it's pretty cool to see that.
Yeah, and you got to seize the moment, obviously, when you get that, when you're blessed to have this, opportunity. You go after it and you go full bore, just like you obviously did. And I have to go back for a second, if you don't mind.
Sure.
I'm picturing, we had VICA in my high school as well, and I did not do it. I was kind of envious of some of my buddies that did it, but I was racing moto, so I didn't have time for that, which isn't necessarily true, but that's how I saw it, and I wish I would have done that. But going back to that, when you as the just out of high school guy working at the as a lube tech or whatever, the teacher comes to you and says, "Hey, you're going," and you go to be with all these college guys or whatever. Against them, and you felt like you were the underdog. When you got called up by Honda and you walked into door number 8, did you have the same feeling?
Oh, good question. I guess I was certainly nervous. I remember being nervous, but it wasn't the same type of nervousness. It was just Honda's, a big corporation, and I'd never been around a company that big, and it's run very professionally, as you can imagine. So it was intimidating from a different factor, but I wasn't intimidated on necessarily the ability to work on the vehicles or that stuff. It was more about the environment and just learning how that works in the corporate world.
Good. That's awesome. That's kind of what I was expecting you to say, and I was going to go back and give you kudos for you were building your skill set all the way through these
and confidence.
Yeah, absolutely, and your confidence to when you were on the stage, the big stage of the dream of Honda, you could rely on that. You knew what you were capable of, so that was probably a pretty good feeling. Like you said, I can imagine it being a different environment, like you said, but at least you could fall back on, hey, I know how to sling these wrenches, and I know how to think through these problems and all that. So that sounds pretty cool. It was probably kind of comforting that you'd kind of been there, done that, I guess maybe.
Yeah, and then so some of the other things that led me to where I'm at. So I worked in the service shop, working on almost production stuff, non-race vehicles, awesome nonetheless, but non-racing. And down the other direction from Johnny in the same building was the actual race teams. So the Supercross team, which is Supercross and motocross and road racing, was all in the same area. And so it was just down the hallway from where I worked. And so on our mandatory breaks, and at lunchtime, guess where I was? I was always wandering out there, poking around. And so I got to meet a bunch of those guys. Actually, probably made the best friends with the road racing guys. This is back when like Miguel de Hamel was racing RC 45s. Mike Hale.
I remember.
And, so I got to meet their crew chiefs, which was Ray Plum and Merlin Plumley. And both of those guys were super friendly. And, they didn't put me to work or anything, but for a young kid that was down there poking his nose around a professional racing program, they were very friendly and courteous.
That's cool.
And that was awesome.
Yeah, that is super cool. One thing that I did just understand that he's doing here is we always talk about this on the show. The more you put in, the more comes out, right? Hard work pays off. He's doing all this extracurricular stuff for free. Like, he's not working. He gets to go into the motocross shop or the street bike racing shop, the road racing shop, on his own time. You know what I mean? He's lucky that they let him in, first of all,
right,
which is cool. But that's not his job.
Right. That's the passion coming out.
Yeah,
what that is.
That's
I'm sure.
Sweet.
Yeah. So then another little piece is in the back of the road race and the motocross shop, there was a full-on machine shop that was dedicated just to the race program. And there's a guy, my mind just went blank on his name. He's super famous, that ran the fabrication room. And he was an older gentleman that was also very friendly. And I was interested in all that, but I had zero experience with machining and machine shops. And so I'd watch over his shoulder a little bit, but I really wasn't in there much during regular business hours. But what ended up happening is I signed up for a community college and took some machine shop classes. And then I was able to go into that machine shop after business hours and play around and learn how to run the machines and make stuff for myself. I would think in today's world that might be a little harder. Maybe it was a little more lenient then. When I look back, I'm like, man, how did they let me do that? But able to do it, and it was pretty incredible.
That is sweet. Well, and another thing that I'm getting is, like, when did he sleep, right?
Yeah.
So did you how old were you at the time then?
So I was 20 when I started working at Honda.
Oh, okay. So this is 20 to 24-ish, maybe 22-ish area?
Yep, correct.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So not married, no kids. Lived up there in the area and really nowhere to go off-road riding right there. And I lived in a studio, so I pretty much spent all my extra time at work doing what I could.
Dude, I definitely can relate to that. When I was in Southern California, that was all that I did was I just worked. Yeah, at the shop or at the office for 16 hours a day, just trying to get ahead, man. But it teaches you a lot of stuff. It teaches you the grind. It teaches you hard work. And it's neat that he had the opportunities to do it, like I said, and he said too, like, I don't think nowadays you could just walk into the race shop. You know what I mean?
I'm sure.
So it's pretty cool. Okay, so where'd you go from there? Were you just kind of learning how to do the machine shop stuff, and like what was the next milestone?
Well, so jumping back to Johnny and Bruce Ogilvy was, and then that bike that you saw the picture of. So that was from 1995. So that's when I was 20 years old. So that's my first year at Honda. And I don't remember how they ended up telling me about it, but they made this bike that was called the EXP2, which stood for Experimental Two-Stroke. And if you go back, you can find some info on the web about it, but it is a aluminum frame. It's not a perimeter frame. It's like a single backbone aluminum frame bike. It had a 400cc two-stroke, which is, totally one-off animal. It was electronic fuel injected in 95.
Whoa.
And it had this technology called ARC, which is activated radical combustion. And the whole exercise was to try to come up with clean emission two-stroke technology. And so they had developed this in Japan, and they decided to build this race bike, and to prove the technology, they were going to race it. And so they built, I'm not sure how many, I'm going to say maybe only 2 of these bikes, one and then probably one backup and some parts, and flew it over to the U.S. And they raced it at the 95 Baja 1000. And they also raced it at the 95 Nevada Rally. And I was picked to be the American technician to work with the Japanese engineers and team to learn how the bike worked and to support it from the U.S. side. So for both of those races, I was the technician involved from the American side. And so that was, like for the Nevada Rally, that was a 8-day stage race, kind of like the car. And I chased the bike in a Honda box van, and me and one other Japanese engineer worked on it every day and every night, making sure it was ready to race.
Dude, that is super cool. That, like, the opportunities like that don't come to slackers, man. That's bitching.
No, totally.
Good job.
Yeah, I'm taking myself exactly back to this era, because this is like, I'm in my prime of racing in this same time frame. So I can picture the box van. I can see you guys slaving away in the hotel and whatever it takes. It's so cool.
I got a couple questions about the bike too, and about what you were doing on it there. But Mike Coletto says Chris Hawks is the man. And what's up, Mike Beaver? How you doing, bud? It's good to have you watching tonight. So first thing I wanted to just ask you, what were those bikes worth? Did they have a dollar value?
I mean, honestly, they were really priceless. I'm sure they cost a certain amount, but yeah, that number you saw in that magazine quote was some just number that the magazine came up with, but I wouldn't be surprised if they were 3 or 4 times that amount of money to build.
Do those bikes even exist anymore?
I'm sure that bike's in a museum or somewhere, and there ended up being a production version that sold in Japan and maybe in Europe that was derived from it. It certainly wasn't the same bike, but it had the ARC technology. And I'll tell you real quick a little bit about that. So if you guys have ridden two-strokes much, especially older ones, if you've ever had a bike that basically you let off the throttle and the engine kind of runs away or revs up like crazy even though the throttle's open, and then you can hit the kill switch and the thing just keeps running.
Like a diesel.
Yep.
Hang on, I got to shut something off on the screen so I can see you guys. All right. It's actually running on activated radical combustion. And it's a real narrow set of conditions that happen in the combustion chamber, and the engine will run with no spark. It's not dieseling exactly, but it's all these activated radicals self-ignite in the chamber. And when we would pull the head pipe off that bike, you could wipe a white glove inside the head pipe, and it would come out clean.
Dang,
incredible.
That's cool.
That is crazy. Do you ever wish that some of that technology made it to the forefront of like what we deal with now? You know, I mean, with Okay, well, actually, let me reverse that question a little bit. With two-strokes that are being so popular now, would something like that be valid these days?
Well, I certainly don't know on the emissions level. We always thought that it was good enough. When I say we, I mean enthusiasts. I don't mean from an engineering standpoint. I wasn't on the engineering side of the program, but it seemed like it had enough potential, and certainly they brought it to production for Japan and maybe Europe. So I don't know. I think there's a lot of Honda vehicles that were kind of before their time, and that might be one of them. I don't know if it still has potential or not, but it certainly seemed incredible.
Well, just the EFI part of it is 15 years ahead of its time.
Right.
We had Travis Bryan chime in, and he said, looks like we lost Chris. Let me get him back on. But will you read Travis's comment for everybody?
Travis. I wouldn't be here. Oh, there he is. I wouldn't be where I am without Chris. Together we have won 3 championships. That's awesome.
What championships were they?
Yeah, Travis, what championships were they, if you don't mind?
Can you imagine being part of that?
No, that's quite amazing. Phone died. Yeah, so guys, can you imagine? I was taking a trip back memory lane a little bit, 1995, 1996. That was the heyday of McGrath and the 1-800-COLLECT and all that stuff, if you guys can remember that. But that, I'm sure you can, George. That was huge for us at that time.
It really was. It was definitely a good time. What's up, bud? How are you?
Okay, so the device I was on died, so I just got another one.
Yeah, no worries. Let me see if I can get this device to do the screen mirroring too. That's pretty cool. Casey and I were just talking about how crazy it would be to be in that heyday of having there you are. Okay, cool. Looks like you're good to go now. Let me see if I can flip you over. There we go.
In fact, we have those.
No, didn't work.
We have those 1-800-COLLECT Hondas right over here.
Yeah, we have a couple of the.
Turn this thing.
You won't be able to see us, so you can kind of see me. I'll hold the phone so you can see me a little bit, but you won't be able to see Casey. You'll just be able to hear both of us.
As long as I can hear you, we're fine.
Okay, sounds good. So where did we leave off? You were talking about, what kind of bike those would be today.
Yeah, exactly. We were talking about that, and that's what I was saying. I don't know from the engineering and emissions standpoint if it could work in today's world, but I certainly wish they would come out with a new 2-stroke platform.
That would be super cool. The amount of technology that they put in that, I would like to see, what if you could sneak back into the Honda shop now and go into the race shop or go into the development areas and kind of check out the new stuff that they have going on, or even go over to Japan and check it out. How sweet would that be?
Super cool.
Yeah, that'd be incredible and impossible.
Exactly.
They run a tight program over there.
Yeah.
That's why
not much gets leaked out of there.
Exactly. That's why I'm so impressed that you were able to do it back in the day. Well, okay, let's keep going forward then. What was the next stuff that you worked with?
I did the racing stuff. I don't remember how many years, but with Bruce and with Johnny, I guess on the Johnny stuff, I was never his main technician or anything, but I did chase for him. And certainly was working on the bike at some of the pit stops, and that was really cool. So we did that for a number of years. I did that probably till the end of the XR600, the air-cooled days. And it wasn't that I stopped doing anything with them intentionally. What happened is I ended up having some more job goals that I didn't even, sort of like the rest of it, didn't plan on. But I really wanted to work at Honda R&D. And that is a different company than American Honda, where I was working currently. And so before I made it to there, I did some other jobs like Honda. They at a time they had closed down their tech line, which is a dealer tech line that technicians can call in for support.
Yeah.
And get support from people at Honda. And the time that I was in there in that service shop, they reopened dealer tech line, and they opened it with 3 people, and they called me to be one of those 3. And so that meant I went from working in a shop with just a shop uniform on to working on it was called the 4th floor of Building 100. That's where the vice president of American Honda works. And so now we're talking about wearing a tie every day and, being around suits and in cubicles. And it was a huge change again.
Dang, the man of Wall Street now, dude. Upgrade.
So that was interesting. And so my job there was to take calls from dealers and try to help them through technical problems that they were having each day repairing, Honda motorcycle and ATV products. But while I was up there, I was always watching job openings in the company. And as I said, Honda R&D is a separate company under the umbrella of Honda. It's on the same campus, but it's behind a different fence. Talk about not getting in. You can't get in over there unless you got a badge and everything else. And there ended up being a job opening at Honda R&D for ATV test engineer. And I ended up landing that job. Say that again?
What year was this?
The year 2000. So I worked for American Honda for 5 years. So I'm now about 25 years old, and I transferred from American Honda to Honda R&D and went over there as a test engineer.
Dude, I'm still going back to like what I keep thinking in my head, like these opportunities, like he just keeps plugging away and just like getting at it. That's so awesome to see that, man. Hard work pays off, man. It really does. That's so cool. Yeah,
and then a couple other just neat things that ended up happening is so like when we were talking earlier about the heydays of Honda and motocross in the 80s and early 90s.
Yep.
And their team manager for a good portion of that was a guy by the name of Dave Arnold.
Yep.
And
we all remember Dave.
I didn't know Dave, but I knew who he was, but I didn't know him. And guess who my boss was when I transferred to Honda R&D?
Oh, really?
Dave Arnold.
No way.
Yep.
There you go. That's pretty cool, man. Like Dave Arnold's obviously a pretty familiar name now. Before you continue on with where you're going next, DinoJet Matt says it's a very cool interview, so keep up all the good stuff. Obviously, he has a mechanical liking as well. And Travis Bryan, I think he wants a shout out. He said, "Hi, Chris." So you might want to say hi to Travis.
What's up, Trav? That's Travis Salee is his full name there.
Okay.
Little 170 rock star.
Oh, right on. Yeah, he goes as Travis Bryan on his Facebook handle. Man, that is so cool, though. Like, can you imagine, Casey, like back in the day when we were doing, even like when we were doing we'll call it our heyday, even though we weren't that great at motocross and stuff, but to be in a position like that would be
so awesome.
Like, we loved hearing those stories and
totally
seeing all that stuff because we were wanting to be the pros in motocross. You know what I mean? It's neat.
Absolutely.
So where did you go next?
So I worked at Honda R&D for 6 years, and there's all kinds of interesting stuff. So at Honda R&D, I was a ATV test engineer. And so kind of like the EXP2 thing that I was talking about earlier, I wasn't a design engineer. I was a test engineer. So another group of people engineered the stuff, and our team was to test it and evaluate it against competitor vehicles. And then also each vehicle has a set of, let's call it targets and really definitions. Sometimes it's even like keywords that describe the character of a vehicle.
Right.
And so as production vehicles go, there are different stages that have to be confirmed that the vehicle is going the right direction, that it's going to meet the targets that you're shooting for. And so that's what we did. We would evaluate the vehicles and make sure that they were on target to do what the company was planning them to do.
So you basically have to be a perfectionist every day.
Yeah, and understand the market, know what the competitor vehicles are, and know what's good about them and bad about them, and what the customer expects. So yeah, just trying to make the best products that we could.
So Casey has been in a very high level of the RC car industry for a long time. He's helped develop RC cars from the ground up, and he actually has his own signed box. It would be like the Honda Talon was your project. Like a certain RC car called the Losi SETE was Casey's project, and he had some other guys helping him work on it and stuff like that. So he can relate to that a lot because he had to do all the testing, all the engineering, all of the consumer stuff. It was pretty cool to see that. So it's neat.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I'd call it once in a lifetime opportunity. So I mentioned earlier that, I grew up in this little town, Ramona, which is where I'm at now. And I had moved to Torrance after I graduated MMI. And for me, I'm going to call it the city. I just didn't like the city life. So at some point, I got this crazy idea. I'm like, I wonder if I could drive to Ramona and commute back and forth. And for anybody who doesn't know the geography, it's 120 miles one direction from Ramona to Torrance.
Yeah, and it's full of traffic.
And so,
yeah.
yeah, the carpool lane wasn't complete on the 405 at that time. And anyway, I started doing that, and I ended up commuting for 9 years of my time at Honda from Ramona to Torrance.
Oh my gosh.
So I put some miles on the road.
Yeah, you did.
But where I'm going with that is you're asking about progression. And so at one point in my life, Honda was awesome, and I don't regret any of it at all, and I'm super appreciative for everything I learned there and all the opportunities. But I felt like the longer I was at Honda, the more they owned me, and the more time I was going to spend there. And as I was getting older and wanting to have a family, it seemed harder to do what I wanted to do outside of what the company needed. And so
I think a lot of people can relate to that. Any of our audience can relate to that too. It's just, even if you're working an electrician job, if you're working at an auto shop, or even if you're working at Ace Hardware or Home Depot, you get stale, or you just you're there for so long. It's like, what can I do next? Some people don't have the wherewithal like Chris did to be able to make the next step, Yep.
Stop lighting. Hey, George, I hate to interrupt. Am I just on with you visually? I'm not on because of how we reconnected. Is that right?
You're actually here. You're still on the big screen. I don't know if you can see yourself, but you're there. So you're just looking at me because we're on a different device. Casey's still over here, and all the studio equipment is still up there. I don't know if you can see it, but you're good to go, man.
I don't mind. I'm just being told here I need to move so I could be seen better.
Yeah. Get some spotlights on you, bud.
Yeah, here we go. Let me see if I can figure this out. Okay, so
you're a little Blair Witch Project on the screen.
I decided to leave. I decided to leave Honda. Can you hear me still?
Yeah, we can. So you decided to leave Honda.
Okay. Yep. So I decided to leave Honda, not because I didn't love it, but I was just trying to figure out something that was closer to home. I didn't want to move up there, and so I was trying to just kind of rearrange the time used in my life at that point.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now that I've been giving you kudos on your work ethic and stuff, but honestly, scratch all that. You took 9 years driving down the 405 back and forth to work. So I already feel for you, man. You can any decision that you make to get away from that is awesome.
Well, thanks. I was probably a little bit crazy too. But so when I made I had reasonable income working at Honda for what I was doing, especially my age. And so when I was looking to possibly leave Honda, nobody wants to take a cut in pay. So I was trying to figure out what I'm going to do. And I couldn't find a lot of jobs where I could make the same kind of money. And not that I was getting rich or anything like that, but I was doing okay for my age. And in any case, I ended up taking a job at a Mercedes-Benz dealer as a service advisor again. And I felt like if there were, so this is in 2005, I left Honda. And I felt like in the car world that my assessment was that maybe Mercedes customers, as a major percentage, had maybe more disposable income than other people, and they'd be able to afford to fix their cars kind of year round and not related to recessions and things like that as much.
Yeah, exactly.
Whether it's right or wrong, I don't know. But So I went to work at a Mercedes dealer as a service advisor, and I did that for a year. And it worked out okay. Again, another whole new experience. Back to wearing a tie to work and dealing with a somewhat different class of customers.
Yep.
And being the go-between between a big service department with like 120 technicians and the customers. And so just another stage of learning communication and that kind of thing.
Yeah, and that was at a totally different time too. So when you first started dealing with the customers, you were much younger and you were kind of just getting your feet wet. And now you've got a lot more experience because this is 10 or so years later. And then all of a sudden you're like, wow, this is a whole new experience, and you can feel for the society at the time and stuff like that. So that's probably a huge preparation for some of the stuff that you deal with nowadays.
Yeah. So then back to maybe a little bit my craziness. I did that for a year. And when I left Honda, I tried really hard not to burn any bridges and to let them know, I wasn't going to a competitor, and just kind of keep the door open, if you will.
Yep.
Both professionally and on a friendship level, because I've made a lot of friends there, some of whom I've got some really good friends still from those days. And in any case, a year went by of working at Mercedes, and my original job that I vacated at Honda never got filled. It was still open. They had an open position and hadn't found anybody. And I ended up reapplying. I missed Honda, and I went back to work for Honda in my same job a year later.
Dude, that's crazy.
On the 405 again?
That's the craziest part, right? Dude, that is super cool, though. Casey Sam also said the show is awesome tonight. My program wouldn't be where it is without Chris. I didn't know you helped Casey, too, man. You're going to have to just give me a list of all these badasses that you help.
I was afraid we wouldn't have to do a list because I'm blessed to work with so many good people and kids that I was afraid I'd forget somebody. But there's a lot of great people that I get to work with.
There really is, man. And the more I get into it, because I've only been in the side-by-side or off-road industry for basically 5 years now, and I've met so many cool people, man. And through motocross and stuff, the same thing. Like, I love hearing the stories like what you're telling, because it just resonates so good. And now that you're going back to Honda again.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I went back, and it's funny you mentioned the commute. So, now we're talking about 2005, roughly. 2005 or 2006 when I was going back. And it's a different world. So
you passed by me every single day because my office was in Solana Beach at that time. So you drove by me twice a day.
Not quite, but yeah, close.
Almost.
I went through San Marcos and Oceanside to the 5, and then up the 5 to the 405. But in any case, went back to work there, and one of very few people to quit Honda, especially Honda R&D, and then get hired back. Generally with the Japanese, if you quit like that, the door's closed. You don't get to come back. But
well, that's not just with the Japanese people either. I mean, that's like in the kids that watch this show, like that's with sponsors. If you do a sponsor dirty or you quit a sponsor, it's very unlikely that you'll get it back. If there's a manufacturer that you've been with and then you leave them, and it's very, very difficult. I mean, even Chad Reed, for instance, he had problems going back to manufacturers that he wanted to ride for 10 years later. They're like, nah, we're good, man. You can go buy your own bikes, like stuff like that. So they must have really liked you.
And you obviously left professionally.
Well, it was mutual. Yeah. I liked them too. And I still say that I bleed red. I mean, I like a lot of the brands, so I'm not just like only a Honda guy, but I definitely Honda blood runs in my veins.
Have you tried any of those, like not to get off subject, but have you tried a Talon yet?
Yep, I own a Talon.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, so you do bleed red. That's cool. So whenever I get my Talon, I'm going to hit you up so you can get it all tuned up.
Okay. Yeah, we can talk about those and all kinds of other stuff on UTVs. But so I went back to Honda and did the same job. And I don't know at what point I thought about starting my own business, but I can tell you that I remember for quite a while before I actually got the nerve to do it, I started thinking about owning my own business. And it probably started back, I don't know exactly what year the 50 craze really happened, but it started out with the XR50, and then Honda renamed it to the CRF 50. But that craze went nuts, and I was into them too as an enthusiast. And I remember thinking about starting a business for those things. Magazines were still big in that time, and I remember looking at magazines just thinking to myself, how am I going to carve out a piece of business for myself? There's already so many companies who do this or that. How am I going to get a piece of it? And I really just didn't have any confidence. And nobody in my kind of family history was entrepreneurs or business owners, and no discredit to them. Just I didn't have anybody to ask for, how do I do this, or to be even a confidence booster. But I do remember commuting and thinking about my business name, on what I would want my business name to be. And I had, I just remember running through, it seems like thousands of names, something or other performance. I knew I wanted the word performance in it. And I don't know, I was somewhere on the 73 toll road near Newport Beach when one day it popped into my head, Benchmark Performance. And I don't know how it came to me, or even what Benchmark was going to be, but I knew when I start a business, it's going to be Benchmark Performance.
That is super cool. Did you just hold on to that idea?
Yeah, so I held on to that idea, and still I just wasn't sure how. And later on ended up, or through this time, ended up finding a great woman and got married. And she was a business owner.
Oh, cool.
And she actually encouraged me to have the confidence to start my own business and give me some advice even on the paperwork and the legal side of things, like how to go about it. And man, kind of like the beginning of my career where I really didn't have my own plan. I can't claim like, okay, I set out, I want to do this, and I figured out these are the steps I'm going to do to do it. Really, I had a lot of outside help that helped me get to these places. Same thing. My wife encouraged me, and I didn't know exactly how or what I was going to do. But in 2006, I quit Honda and started Benchmark Performance.
That is super cool. Well, and the drive sucked too. And your wife brought you a blanket. So yeah, clearly she's awesome. Man, that's crazy. I have so many, like, I'm in a totally different genre of work and stuff with the computer stuff that I do, but all of these things resonate so hard with me because I moved to California and I had started my own business and all these crazy things like who I went to work for and all this fantastic stuff. It's like just a different version of his same story, man. It's so cool.
Super awesome.
The only thing, I just didn't have a girl to bring me a blanket, so you win.
She's pretty special.
Yeah, and she's willing to help you. Obviously, she gave you some good advice because when you end up starting Benchmark. Was it a little stressful at the beginning?
No, it wasn't. And I don't know that I could tell you why. But I'll tell you that it's probably not what you guys think it was either. So when I started Benchmark, okay, so in Southern California here, I'm pretty close to Glamis, to the sand dunes. And so I grew up going to the dunes, love the dunes. And, so I've always been into stuff with the sand, and, dune buggies, sand rails, whatever you want to call them, were really booming in the late 90s and early 2000s.
Big time.
That's when the first long travel cars came out. And so I was into that stuff. And different engine platforms were coming. That's really before V8s, and the LS V8s were, well, LSs didn't exist then, but even before any V8s were really being widely used in those. And so I had buggies, and like I had my last
Subaru.
My last early car. Yeah, my last early car was an all aluminum chassis, J&J, which is a San Diego manufacturer, that had a turbo VW that I built in it. It had a 2180 with a turbo and a side draft carburetor, and it was super fun. But then I went to work for Honda in that 95, and I still had this aluminum J&J, and import drag racing was just really starting to take off around the same time. And again, I wasn't in it, but I was kind of on the circumference of it, because in Torrance, right around there, was all of the top shops for import drag racing. There's a company that's well known now. You're going to know that's called AEM. At the time, it was called Advanced Engine Management. That's what AEM stands for.
Yep.
And so I ended up meeting John Concialdi, the founder of AEM. His shop was in Gardena, which is just a couple miles away. And I would go over there and talk to him about building turbo engines.
We love
in
those
these
guys
early
at
'90s.
That's sweet, man. We love those guys at AEM. They were a big part of my racing program, Lawson and all those guys over there. Where they did some development with the car that we gave them for the dash and CAN bus and all that stuff. It was really, really cool to work with those guys. So that's sweet that you guys got to get in on I guess kind of the ground floor with the import stuff, because they're still huge in that import world.
Yeah. So I had this idea that I wanted to put one of these import motors in my buggy and get rid of the VW. And so I ended up buying a Honda Prelude engine. It was a 2.3 liter Prelude.
Mm-hmm.
And the Prelude was kind of the biggest 4-cylinder displacement car that Honda was making in the early mid-90s. And so I wanted to turbo it and put it in a buggy. But it had one big drawback, and that is that almost all the engines in the world rotate clockwise, and all those early Hondas 4-cylinders, they spin counterclockwise. And so if you make that up to a VW transaxle, the wheels are going to be running the wrong direction.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Mid-engine.
Yep.
So even with a mid-engine, if you flip the ring and pinion, you're running on the coast side of the ring gear instead of the drive side of the ring gear. So from an engineering standpoint, it's not ideal.
Gotcha.
So to give you a little bit of insight on the technical stuff and me and my mind, I'm like, well, I'll just spin the engine the other direction. So again, I didn't really know exactly how I was going to do it, but I ended up doing it. I took the balance shafts out of the engine and just discarded them and plugged the bearing holes. I put a dry sump oiling system on it. Ended up meeting some guys up there in that area that worked for defense companies and aerospace. So like, oh gosh, I can't think of it now. But anyway, some of the aerospace companies up there. And so I got one of my friends that worked at the aerospace company to literally cut the end of the camshafts off where the cam gears go on. And then I figured out that if I flip the camshafts over in the head, that the lobes are in the right position to spin the engine the other direction. And I had him remachine and attach the cam drive to the opposite end of the cam. So I could put him in the head backwards.
That's awesome.
Dude, that's insane.
It was kind of cool.
Did you know that you could do the project like that, or did you just, when you grow up as a little kid, you just took it apart?
Go for it.
No, I definitely didn't know. I just dove in.
That is
kind of like child
cool.
faith. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just going to figure this out.
How awesome
and
is
then,
that? Dude, my dad is going to love this story. I bet you he's sitting at home watching this going, sweet.
So then, of course, as you mentioned EFI being advanced on that EXP2. So same thing, EFI is really starting to just take off in drag racing and everything in these standalone ECUs. And again, I had all these top shops around me. So I used to visit this shop. It's not even around anymore, but it was called Fast Tracks Turbo Technologies. And this guy, John Kuriyama, he did all of the top drag racers turbos at the time. Like there was a guy, Abel Ibarra, who raced RX-7s with rotaries. Mm-hmm. And I'm pretty sure that John did his turbo. And anyway, I was in John's shop, and he had these ECUs called Autronic. They were out of Australia. And so I ended up essentially buying in on the methodology on how those ECUs worked, and I bought one of those and wired up this Prelude with this Autronic ECU that we would tune the thing. And so I ended up building this engine that ran reverse rotation with the turbo on methanol.
Dang. Dude, how gratifying was that when you were done and got it running?
So cool.
At times it was good. It was also a money pit. I blew it up a bunch of times for various reasons. But the way this all connects to now is that through that time, this growth of the buggy stuff, the buggy world was big, and there weren't that many people doing the Hondas. And so when I quit Honda corporate in 2006, Benchmark was building Honda engine packages for buggies. That's what Benchmark was.
Oh, wow.
it wasn't even about UTVs or power sports.
Well,
It
UTVs
was
were
buggy
just on the
engines.
cusp of being popular at that point, right?
Yeah, because the Rhino came out in '04, and we had tested concept side-by-sides at Honda. And so, yeah, they were starting, but they weren't anything like they are today.
Right.
And so, obviously, the economy crashed in roughly '08, and that ended up not being good for the buggy world. And through that kind of time frame from '06 to '08, my brother-in-law bought a Rhino, and he bought it to basically be like a chase vehicle for going out and doing the desert racing he was doing in a truck. And that's Brandon Arthur's dad, by the way. That's Todd Arther, who's known to the UTV world as the Flying Banana.
Yeah, or the Godfather.
And yes, sir. And so he bought this Rhino, and he built his own long travel suspension for it. In fact, it had coilover and it had a bypass shock on all four corners.
Dang.
Back in '06, I believe, had Fox bypasses. And so it was just built for fun. And all of a sudden there was this little local race series that popped up at Lake Elsinore motocross track. And it was this girl, Heather, had the series called Podium Productions. And it was real motocross tracks with big jumps. And we thought, oh, that sounds like fun. Let's go check it out. So Todd went up there with his Rhino, and I trailed along. And he went and raced. And at this time, he had a stock engine just with a fully built chassis. And he won the race. And kind of the hook was set on UTV stuff. And there ended up being a lot of people watching, just spectators, you know. And like I remember all the motocross racers would stop riding or practicing. George, did I lose you?
No, we're still here.
Oh, okay. Mine said that you were gone. Anyway, all the motocross guys would stop and just watch when the UTVs were actually running, because it was so impressive at that time, seeing these guys jump these Rhinos on these big old doubles and tabletops.
So you want me to tell you a little secret? I was one of them.
Stopping and watching.
Yeah, absolutely. We would go out on well, it depends on what day, but we would go out on our mini bikes, and we were always there, and I'd always see the side by side guys, and I'm like, what the heck are those things? And I would see they wouldn't do like huge jumps like they do now, but I would look at them and I would be like, oh my gosh, these things are so cool, but to me they look like unobtainable. You know what I mean? At the time, I didn't know. So
yeah, so again, not really planned out, but these Rhino racing took off, and that's all it was Rhinos at the time. And I think we only did maybe 2 races with the stock engine. And then I think it's probably Chad Matag was racing a Rhino for a company called Rhino Mafia at the time, and he was fast too. And I think he showed up with a modified engine, or maybe he already had one, I don't know, but we were outpowered. And so Todd's Rhino needed some more power. And he bought a kit from a Southern California guy, just a small big bore kit. And I installed it. And that was my first kind of foray into the UTVs on my own. And we raced with that a couple of rounds. And then I thought, man, I could make this thing better. And then to jump ahead, here we are.
Dude,
just
all
live and
because
breathe UTVs.
All because he started taking apart stuff when he was a little kid. He just keeps taking stuff apart and figuring it out, man. How cool is that?
And the auto teacher.
Dude, well, yeah, and the auto teacher got him the Honda thing, but man, that is awesome.
So cool.
Yeah, so really fortunate again on the timing to be involved on the early UTV racing. And man, we had some just epic fun times racing back then. It's still fun now, but it was just different in the beginning. The excitement was just incredible.
Yeah, and I see that like the common theme here, like with all the stuff that you're telling, you really like the new like forays into things, like getting into something that's unknown. You know what I mean? Because you've thrown yourself in that unknown area so many times in your life, man. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, I definitely like to do things that are, I don't know, it's not that I'm trying to be different from everybody else, but I like, on the mechanical side, I like trying new things and pushing ideas.
Yeah, it's clear that you like figuring stuff out. That's pretty cool. So you obviously work with Todd for a while. That's where the relationship with Brandon came as well. But so maybe you can kind of give us a little rundown of some of the stuff that you've done in the past, 5 or 6 years. Well, now this is probably 10 years now, but 5 to 10 years.
With racing or just UTVs in general? I guess it really stems around racing.
Yeah, I think both though, because you've done some pretty cool stuff that's definitely not full racing engaged, but I mean you're always at the track, so that's clearly going to be a big part.
Yeah, so we did all this racing with the Rhinos, like I said, starting in 2006, and so I'll give you a little bit more on the connection on Todd and Brandon. So Todd's sister is my wife. So they're family, Todd and Brandon Arther. And so Todd built that first long travel Rhino that had the bypass shocks. And then my little business when I was building the Honda engines was out of my garage. And at some point when I started doing the Rhino stuff, I wasn't working on the whole vehicles. I was only working on the engines. So people would just bring me their engine and I could do it out of my 2-car garage. And it got to be where I had too much. I was still doing some Honda buggy engines, but those were dropping off. Just demand wasn't there. Mm-hmm. And the Rhino stuff was picking up. And I needed more space. So Todd has his own business, HRT Motorsports, and they build UTVs, trucks, buggies, all that kind of stuff, also in Ramona. And so I moved out of my 2-car garage and I moved into his 3,000 square foot shop and kind of joined HRT Motorsports. He still had HRT and I still had Benchmark, but we were operating under one garage or, one roof.
Get packed house.
Yep. So together we did a lot of Rhino stuff in those early days. I would land the performance part of the job and they would get the chassis part of the job, or it would start with one or the other and then it would transfer over to the other. And so we raced Rhinos, and then the Kawasaki Teryx came out in 2008. And we bought one right away. We bought one at a local dealer, Escondido Cycle Center. And we went and raced that. Todd raced that at, that's the Saboba Grand Prix. Joey D will remember all that stuff. And car was really stock. It had, I think, a cage and wheels and tires on it. Didn't have a pipe. Might have had seats, but, I mean, it was very, very stock because it was brand new. And we really thought that was going to be the next platform because it was a V-twin and a 750 engine. So we went hog wild and built some race cars with those. I got one good story that I could share with you about Teryx racing. You ready to hear that one?
Yeah, definitely. I think this is so cool, man, because I wasn't around at this time, but I really like hearing the OG stories.
So we built this new Teryx, and this was before Lucas Oil Off-Road as a race series. And so at the time it was core. It was championship off-road racing. Same type of racing. A lot of the same people have been involved, but different organization. And so I remember we built this Teryx, and who was it? Somebody, Miles earlier when he called into you was talking to you about clutching and some advice I gave him on his RS1. And so some of this I've learned from some other people. Some of it I've learned from reading books and studying. Some of it I've just learned from hands-on experience. But we went and we were racing our Teryx at it was Core Chula Vista. It was at the track that people will know as the Quarry, which maybe is the best track ever. Did you ever go to that track?
No, I saw some some older videos just of it. It looks super cool because that elevation changes, right?
It had huge elevation change. It was a longer track. I don't remember for sure, but I want to say it's maybe 2-minute lap times.
Dang, that's awesome.
So
that's pretty big.
Yeah, double the length of kind of today's current tracks, even for trucks. And so we went there, and Todd had got quite a bit of notoriety as the Flying Banana and all the races that he won in the Rhino. And we tried to get a sponsorship with Kawasaki, and Reed Nordine was the team manager at Kawasaki at that time. And we didn't know him, but we reached out to him and tried to get a sponsorship. And it got into kind of final talks, but we ended up not getting picked. And Chad George and the Funko family got picked to be the factory Kawasaki Teryx team.
I remember that. So, I remember seeing something like that, yeah.
Yep. So we built our own Teryx anyway. And I would later learn that it was something that I said in the process of trying to land the sponsorship that made us not get it. And I'll tell you that in a minute. But yeah. In any case, we built our Terex, and the George family built their Terex, and we were racing there, and it was a 2-day race. And Saturday, our clutching wasn't right, and the car, the engine ran okay, but the car's performance on the track wasn't good. The car was just sluggish, let's call it, and we were off the pace. I don't even know what place we finished in with Todd driving, but it wasn't good. And I knew I needed to get the RPM up higher, but there weren't a lot of choices for parts, or at least we didn't know where to get them. And that's to tune the clutch, that is. And I remember walking around the pits and asking, and I asked Grant George, Chad's dad, if they had any clutch parts. And I don't remember exactly what he said, but I didn't get any from him. And so that night we decided that we needed to make a big change to the clutch regardless. And so we drove back to our shop in Ramona, and we had some extra clutch weights, and we just modified the heck out of them to make them lighter.
I was going to say, grinded them, yep.
Yep, which raises the operating RPM, or the shift RPM. And we went back the next day, and I think we lost the drive shaft out of that car on the Saturday race also. Those drive shafts are spring-loaded, the one that goes to the front diff. And he had hit the face of a whoop, and it literally compressed the spring and popped the front drive shaft out of the car. I remember him coming on the radio, because I've always been his spotter. He's like, we blew it up. And I'm going, what's wrong with it? I don't see any smoke or anything. And all of a sudden he's like, oh, the noise is gone. I'm like, well, keep driving. Well, what it was is it spit the drive shaft out, and that thing was beating around in there while it was engaged on one end for a few moments.
Yeah, it feels like you grenaded it.
Yep. So anyhow, we went home, got a drive shaft out of another Terex, and ground the weights. Went back on Sunday with the same car, just with having four-wheel drive again and the lighter clutch weights. And Todd dominated, and we won the race.
Dude, sweet.
And I remember Grant coming up and asking, like, what the heck did you guys do to that car? Because we were just off the pace on Saturday, and then Sunday we just killed it. So it was super awesome triumph.
Just a light switch. That's cool, man. And, yeah, so it kind of does go back to what Miles said earlier. It's just like a big learning curve. And, again, like, you didn't really have an option. It wasn't like that you had these weights laying around that was the perfect, like, solution. It's like, oh, we got to go back and bolt these in, and we're going to be good. You had to figure it out again.
Yeah, and at that time there weren't as many choices, so there were really only two companies that sold clutch parts. One of the companies had adjustable weights. That's what the Demco team had, and we had non-adjustable weights. So we had a couple of different weights, but whatever profile and mass they have, that's what you have.
Yeah, exactly.
And so we really had no way to adjust it. So we just went old school and modified them.
Dude, sweet, man. You guys definitely sound like you were on the forefront of all that stuff. I remember going out to Wild Horse Pass, but the UTVs had already been, like, I don't know, 3 or 4 years into the game. Like, SR1s were popular at that time, and Ryan Beat and the Georges and Robert Van Beekum and all those guys were out there.
Yeah, Bobby's been in it since the beginning, or Robert, whichever way you want to call him. I've always known him as Bobby. But, yeah, he raced the Rhinos from the really early days with us too, and I've only done a little bit of work with him over the years, but his family and I are actually really good friends these days, and been competitors with them a long time, all through that Terex and Rhino stuff, but super good family. So, yep, he's been in it from the beginning too.
That old dirt life camaraderie keeps coming back, man. Well, so you obviously are able to compete at the top level of the time of UTVs. What was next?
Let's see. Well, first, the core series went under, and so September of 2008 was the last core race ever. We actually won that race with the Terex, by the way. So the last core race ever we won, and that was at the quarry. Not the same race I told you about, but the same location.
Yep.
And anyway, and then there was a short time where there was no kind of, I'm going to call it big series racing until Lucas Oil took over. And then Lucas Oil took over, and I think Todd was getting a little burnt out on working so hard in the shop for his business and racing, et cetera, et cetera. And so ended up selling or trading off the Terex the next year, I believe. He did. And let's see, this was probably about '09. So we started getting into mod carts because Brandon was coming of age to be old enough to drive mod carts. And so, sort of like the UTVs, HRT built their own mod cart chassis. And we bought TRX 450 ERs, so electric start TRX 450s. And I did the engines in them. And we built some mod carts, and Brandon went mod cart racing.
Dude, he's not lying
I was still
when he
doing
says
a lot
he
of
bleeds red.
Yeah.
I felt that they were the best platform at the time as an engine package, but and then in that same time, I got to work with some other awesome kids. So I didn't build their whole car, but like I did Sheldon Creed's Honda 450 mod cart engines at the time.
Sweet.
I did Jarrett Brooks mod cart 450 Honda engines at the time. And so again, just right place at the right time, and got to work with some great kids that obviously those two are just unbelievable athletes and vehicles still to this day.
Yeah, absolutely. They can drive the crap out of anything. Where was, in case you'll probably agree with this question, is like, where was Benchmark and how was Benchmark doing at this point?
Benchmark's always been, well, I shouldn't say always. So I've never really advertised. In those days, the forums on the internet were still big, like Brian Bush had Rhino forums and Terex forums. And I advertised on those. That's the only advertising I've ever done. Never been in a magazine or anything like that. But mostly my brand and my reputation is built by word of mouth. And honestly, that's probably one of my downfalls. There's some competitors that are big and successful, and they're good people with good companies, but they were better at marketing. And so there's been a lot of things with my business that I've learned the hard way. And I know I still don't do marketing the way that I should, but my business is doing okay. So I've just been fortunate to have steady growth. So it's just been growing slowly the whole time. I mean, certainly there's, ups and downs on the overall trajectory, but overall it's been just steadily growing.
That's pretty awesome. And obviously you're doing it with things that you're passionate about too.
Yeah, and I don't know, that's probably part of the reason that I've been able to do what I do, because I mean, while we need to make money to live, and I've got things that I want to do that cost money too, I mean, I really do this stuff because I love it, not because of the money.
We hear so many stories like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty cool. And then so the mod carts and things like that are doing good. I remember when there was like a flurry of that stuff, and then it started, like some of those people that you're talking about started either graduating into a next level truck like a Pro Light or something like that, and then the faster UTVs or the new generation of UTVs started trickling out, right?
Yeah, so I mean the Terex, in my opinion, was, well, I guess the Razor 800 was on the scene too, because I remember a young RJ Anderson was racing the Razor 800 from when it first came out, and I remember him racing Todd, and so that's cool to see the perspective on those guys now with RJ just killing it. But I never really got into the Razor 800s, and I just really wasn't a super fan of the engine because it was a pushrod engine. I just felt like it was low technology. They seemed like they broke a lot, the race cars. And I don't know, I guess I just wasn't really inspired by them personally. Looking back on it, I think it was a foolish decision to not get involved with them earlier, that is. But at the time, I just didn't like the engine. And so I just didn't go after any of that kind of work. And so through kind of the late 2000s, when it was really the Terex and the Razor 800, I mainly worked on Terexes, and then still Rhinos, and even to this day, I mean, shoot, I worked on a Rhino today.
Nice.
Yep. But so it was mainly Terexes that I did, and I would say that the racing with UTVs, it got super expensive because those cars we were racing in Core in the early days of Lucas, they were full one-off. I mean, if you could call it a works bike, they were works UTVs, where they were 50, 60 grand to build.
Ooh-wee.
At that time, including buying the car. But they were a lot more modified when the rules were a lot looser. And so I think it slowly started dying a little bit because of the cost. And I mean, even the people who could afford to build it, if you weren't a top driver, you weren't going to be successful. And so combined with the cost that was escalating, it started to fade a little bit from the racing at that time. And I just continued to do the recreation stuff. And then where I think it really turned another corner for me was Polaris came out with the XP900 as a 2011 model year. And I don't know how much you know, but the engine is just leaps and bounds ahead of what the Razor 800 had.
That was my first my first race car was a 2011 with a dry sump system and everything. I love that car. It's still, to this day, that's still one of my favorite side-by-sides, just because they were so fun and they were pretty reliable for what they were too.
I agree. The XP900, that first generation, the 11 to 14 900 with the trailing arms, kind of the balance between power, weight, wheel travel, and the overall dimensions, that car just has a great overall balance to it.
Yep, it felt
which
good.
Makes it just super fun to drive. Even to today, I kind of laugh at some of the people on Facebook and some of the places these days that poke fun at, like, for instance, vehicles like the new Talon at the power levels. And there's people that think everything has to have a turbo and have mega power. And it's like, man, do you realize, like, vehicles like the XP900, it had 88 horsepower.
Yep.
And that thing was incredible.
Exactly.
And so I bought one. I got the first one in San Diego County that I know of, and just bought it myself because I was into it. And I remember that they had announced it, but they weren't available yet. And I somehow figured out that there were parts that you could order, even though the vehicles weren't in dealerships yet. So I ended up buying a cylinder head before you could even buy a vehicle in the dealership. And
Nice.
I ended up working on CNC porting on the cylinder head before the car was even out.
And this time you weren't 16 anymore.
Yep, for sure. But still, it's still networking, you know? I mean, this whole story, none of this, I can just say, oh, it was me. So same thing with the porting. I had guys that were more experienced than me or more knowledgeable than me. And so, you know, I pull people in to help me. And so we ended up developing a port shape. And then, especially for UTVs, it was still pretty early, but then we had the head digitized. And then I had a shop that does contract CNC machining. I don't own a CNC porting machine, but I use this shop that does contract CNC porting. And so then I would just send them the heads and they would do the CNC porting.
That's cool.
And yeah, so anyway, got into the 900s and gosh, even decided at that point that, like, man, why aren't we doing more stuff? By this time, we'd started working on whole vehicles. We're not just doing engines. So people are bringing their whole vehicle to me. And started thinking, like, why aren't I building cages for these? I mean, everybody who buys UTVs building cages and changing all that. So in 2011, same thing. I partnered up with a buddy who was better at the fabrication stuff than me. And so it was another contract deal. Like, he and I designed the cages together. And then he manufactured them and I sold them. And so it was my product. It was my brand. But we built them together.
That's still super cool, though, because you give people the opportunity to do what they're good at.
Yeah, and likewise. I mean, he didn't want to deal with selling them to customers, and, you know, he only had one customer, me.
Right.
So we built a lot of cages. We made doors and bumpers. We never did our own long travel, but we did the fabrication stuff from 11 through about 2014, maybe early 2015. And had a lot of learning experiences and also, you know, met a lot of customers and probably grew our brand. But anyway, ultimately in probably 2015, I decided to get out of the fabrication and that it was not something I wanted to be involved with on the business side.
Yeah, just focus on the performance portion of it. At the time when the 900s were out and you were kind of working on all this stuff, were you still staying in the recreational stuff, or were you doing, like, escalating some of the racing stuff now again?
Yeah, so probably in 2012 is when it really turned back into the racing. I was interested in the racing the whole time, but the UTV stuff, like I said, it didn't die, but it certainly mellowed way out for a time. And so when that 11 XP900 came out, I ended up racing my Razor, which is one of the pictures I sent you. That's me jumping at a track that's closed now, Speed World in Arizona, which I'm sure you know.
Yep.
And so that was a works race in 2012. So I raced the works series in 2012 myself.
Dude, you were
and
sending
so while
it
I've,
too. That was a big-ass jump.
Yeah, that was a huge tabletop. I mean, it's a cool picture, but honestly, my memory is that it even looks more impressive in real life. I remember that jumping. I mean, you had to hit that thing flat out. And I remember being scared to do it at first. But guys, RJ Anderson was there racing a 900. James Hill was there racing a 900 from IMG Motorsports. And there was more than one or two or three guys jumping it, but it was definitely a big jump. And there was a lot of people that didn't do it. And I remember being scared to hit it. But finally I did it, and it was incredible.
That's super cool. Was there a lot of guys racing at that time?
There was a big turnout. I don't remember the entry numbers, but I remember there being a lot, and there were still multiple classes. Got to be friends with Justin Lambert from Cognito Motorsports through all this UTV racing. Used to do some engine stuff for him when he was racing a Kawasaki Teryx. Again, that's in that kind of, I'm going to call it lulled years where it softened a little bit, the racing.
Yep.
And in fact, Justin had just started doing suspension stuff in that, I don't know, maybe late 11 or 2012. And so my XP900, I remember when I was racing it at Speedworks, I had his Fox shock package on the car. I remember going over and talking to him about the crossover position settings and stuff like that for doing those big jumps on that track.
Do you remember that track, Case? Did you ever see any side-by-sides out there?
Yeah, because we had the big nitro pit.
Right,
RC track was out there. So a lot of times at the same weekend we'd have a big event and they would be out there doing that as well. So
could
we
you
would
see
go
them
out
sending
and
it
watch.
on those
Oh
big
yeah,
mounts?
you could for sure.
Yeah, so that's what got me back into the UTV racing, and I gotta think it through a little bit. So that was for sure 2012. And then let's see, and then 13, 14, 15, I guess. I mean, I did it at a lower level through those years, but I got still the whole now, by the way, the Honda buggy stuff, I've washed my hands of. I don't do any of that by this time. And so this is all just UTV. And then also you mentioned performance that I'm focusing on, but also through this time, just like I said earlier, that I only worked on the engines in the beginning. Now we're taking whole vehicles. And so my shop isn't just performance. And that's something I think a lot of people don't realize. Like at my shop, we're a power sports shop. So side-by-sides is what I'd say where my passion is right now. And that's where I think the trend in our industry is. But I work on ATVs, I work on dirt bikes, and I work on utility vehicles. So, I mean, Polaris Rangers and John Deere Gators and Can-Am Defenders and all those kind of vehicles. And where we're at physically, my shop, geographically, there's a lot of backcountry. So we get a lot of those utility vehicles in that we work on, and a lot of it's maintenance or just general repairs. Honestly, a lot of times those utility vehicles, they just trash them. So there's just mechanical repairs that need to be done because they haven't serviced them properly. And
so
then
you're saying that none of those farmers are coming in asking for a Pioneer with the LS swap?
Yeah. Long travel.
Oh, there's a few. We got a group of farmers from the Imperial Valley, and those guys are super gearheads. But so there's a whole mix, and so I've been fortunate to not just do racing, and so that's part of the reason that I've stayed busy in this COVID thing is that I'm not just working on race cars. We work on any of those kind of vehicles, and so even like we work on vehicles for the U.S. Forest Service. I've got a electric utility company that goes out and does service to remote power lines. So they've got a fleet of side-by-sides, and we work on their vehicles. So it's really a lot more than racing.
And those employees don't care about those cars at all.
For sure not.
Oh, man, you should see them. They are beat down. I see them, and I'm like, how would you even do this in this vehicle?
Right.
Oh, it's so awesome. I love when they tell the stories of, like, the Border Patrol. They're like, yeah, they're getting all new Raptors. I'm like, those things are going to be haggard in, like, a week.
Yeah. Totally.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Those guys are like, oh, yeah, we're out here inspecting this power line. Let's go hit that bump and see if we can double it.
Yeah.
Right. And for the most part, they're not really...
No, they don't know how to race or drive like that. Yeah, they just go.
They're not wheels in the...
Well, and they don't...
I love hearing those stories. Well, so that's good for business.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm appreciative to have, a versatile amount of things that we can do.
What's some of the favorite things that you get to work on? Do you still like working on the dirt bike stuff? I mean, Casey and I will always have a passion for two wheels.
I do. I still love dirt bikes. It seems like on social media, it seems like there's been a resurgence in interest on two strokes in the last few years, and I can say I can relate to that too, just even as an enthusiast. And then talking about those Honda Glory days, I've really wanted to find an '87 Honda CR250. For me, that's kind of an iconic year. It's the first year for the rear disc brake. It's the last year for the orange plastic. With the blue seat and the certain font on the seat. I mean, I know all the Honda kind of graphics by heart for every year from just being such an enthusiast as a kid.
Yeah, and they had that old, I don't know what you want to call it, like calligraphy wing with all the edges on it. Casey and I were actually talking about this. We did a live stream on Instagram on Saturday, and we were talking about what would be like our all-time bike, and Casey picked the
2005 CR250.
Yeah,
or excuse
05
me,
CR
95.
95
I'm getting old.
CR250? Yeah.
Yeah.
So the 95 CR250 was like his jam.
So, Chris, a good buddy of mine that was in the moto industry for a while, Dan Hism, was a mechanic for Pro Circuit and a couple of the others. Anyways, he, through a whole story that we won't get into now, I'll share with you some pictures when we're done here. He built, he found Mickey Diamond's 87, I believe, CR250.
And redid it?
A total happenstance, found it on Craigslist. The guy had no idea what he had. He bought it from the guy cash, and the title said American Honda.
No way.
And as he's pulling this thing apart to rebuild it, it's signed Mickey on the bottom of the seat. So he connects with Mickey. He gets a picture of it when it's completely 100% restored. It's just an amazing story. I'll have to share some pictures with you. The thing is just, it was beautiful.
Oh, that's awesome. I'd love that. Yeah, all those bikes from that era, whether they were just production bikes or works bikes, or just, I don't know, they're just iconic to me.
100%.
Yeah,
so
way different than nowadays.
Yeah, so excuse me. So I definitely still love dirt bikes. I don't have a current generation dirt bike, but I've had a couple of CRF 450s, just personally. And actually, so I was looking for an 86 or 87 CR, like I was telling you, and I ended up stumbling across an 89 CR, which is the second year for the blood red color,
the full red,
and it's Ricky the first Johnson. Year for the upside down forks.
Yep.
Yep, Ricky Johnson style, and a couple other guys, Stanton, and those things were known as the worst front forks ever put on a CR250. But anyway, I stumbled across one for $300. It was remarkably clean, and I just couldn't pass it up. So I bought it, and I wouldn't say it's restored, but I've got it pretty clean right now. And I honestly love riding that thing. My son's into dirt bikes now, even though we race UTVs also. And so, like, we go to Paula, and I mostly ride the vet track there.
Verona's open now too, right?
Yeah, and Verona's literally like, I can hear Verona from my shop.
Yeah.
That's how close we are.
We love that track. I remember growing up looking up to Dustin Nelson being like, I want to be like that guy.
That was my favorite track for sure.
Yeah, it was so fun.
I remember him racing as a kid too. And all kinds of other guys that raced at Verona back in the heyday too. It was for the people listening that know this moto stuff. The track was called CMMC. It was California Mini Motorcycle Club, and the little sign said "Home of Champions."
That's so cool. How many times did you get to ride there, Case?
Oh, about a dozen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So probably a few more times than me, but that track was cool. I love being in the trees and stuff.
Yeah,
and
that was the best part.
I think the best part about it was for me is that. We got to look up to all the California dudes coming from Arizona. Like,
Absolutely.
Oh, my God, these guys are so fast.
There was something about that road, though. I think I hated that road.
Oh, going in there?
Yeah. Does that ring a bell? Driving up through those mountains, I think maybe?
He comes from the other way.
Okay.
But, yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's windy either direction, and, yeah, people definitely hate it. But growing up here, to me, that's just like any other road. I'm like, it's no big deal.
Right.
So... Have you done anything with any dual sports? Like the Honda 450L was my last bike, and I love that thing. It was all bone stock with handlebars on it, but those things are like the new black. Like they're really, really taking off.
Yeah, I'm interested in them, but I really haven't done much work. The little one thing that I have, So I have a chassis dyno in my shop, which is a roller dyno, and mainly I use it for UTVs. But I had a shop that's well known in that world. It's called San Diego Powerhouse, and honestly, I don't know all the names, but they sponsor some people who race who are top names in off road. And so San Diego Powerhouse has been developing some packages for the 450L. And so they brought their bike to my dyno, and I helped them do some dyno tuning and figure out what ignition maps and fuel maps and all that work good with their mods. Like they've got a different cam in it, and they're running different exhausts. I think they're working on the intake. I don't know if it's a different subframe and air boot or exactly how they're doing it. I didn't really get into that portion of it because it's their project, but I helped them get it tuned.
I wonder if that's still all street legal and emissions friendly. That'd be super cool. I want to talk to you about that more offline. So what's like the next like new stuff that you got going on right now?
Let's see.
Clearly, we're not
racing. Yeah. So we haven't talked about the kids other than a few names that have been dropped here and there, but I'm heavily into the Razor 170 racing in today's world. And the Razor 170 obviously dominates the class because it's almost the only vehicle. Technically, there's a High Sun and maybe some offshore copies, but it's mainly 170s, and so I work on a ton of 170s in varying levels. My own son is 11. He races a 170. This year, 2020, is our 4th year with my son racing one. And then I've been into the racing the 170s about 5 years total. I started a year before, mainly with Travis Salee, the one that messaged in earlier that goes by Brian Salee, or I'm sorry, whatever it was Travis on there. Brian, yeah. And yep, a ton of 170 stuff. And most of the racing, I would say, is with stock engines on the 170 class, but in Works and some of the dirt series, you can have a modified engine. And so working on trying some new ideas on modified 170s. Don't know if it's going to work. Might blow up, might not work.
Things look like they always have transmission problems when you start pumping them up.
They do. Even stock ones have transmission problems, to be honest. But yeah, it compounded for sure when they have a modified engine.
So the 170s is a lot in your shop then too, I'm sure.
It is. We've pretty much always got 3, 4, 5 170s in our shop at any given day. We work on a lot of those things. So, other new stuff. Gosh, I'm drawing a blank right now. I'm trying to think. What am I dreaming of right now? Honestly, listening to you talk to Miles and some of the other guys, I'm extremely blessed and thankful that my shop has this work right now and we're able to keep working. It may sound foolish. I was hoping it was going to be a little bit slower, but the only reason I say that is I don't get much time these days to work on my own projects. I'm working on everybody else's, and I probably start way too many projects and don't finish enough of them before I start another. And when you say, what am I working on or what am I dreaming of? I'm dreaming of building some of my own projects right now.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Not all UTV, just different mechanical projects.
Oh, you got a couple of pictures of that older CR 250?
Yeah,
that's cool.
I'll send these to you.
Those are bitching, man. Is that the one?
That's the one.
Dude, that thing looks sweet, man. So we had Menace Racing chimed in, Chris, and said, Chris built my daughter's 800S. She races in the Dirt Series, number 203, Stephanie. He is the man.
Love it. Thank you, guys. Yeah, again, just super blessed to work with all these awesome kids and adults and young adults. Well, just recently started helping them.
These kids are going to be the next generation anyway, so you got to start working with them now. It's neat to see that the 170s are such a growing class of highly talented individuals. I remember seeing you at the Works race when I asked if you would like to be on the show at Havasu, what was it, a month and a half, 2 months ago? And I was absolutely astonished by seeing all those kids in 170s, and then they have a 250 class, which is a modified 170. It's insane how fast those kids go. They're like, you see them get out of the car, and you think they just want to get like a soda or a popsicle, like they can barely talk, but they're out there ripping, just like shredding so hard.
Nice.
It's literally mind blowing. Like for me, and I raced them too. It was like so cool. So for Chris to be able to help those kids must be super satisfying.
Yeah, I'm sure.
It is. I love it. And all those kids are, appreciative. And, 99.9% of them are humble. And, it's just, I'm blessed to be a part of that world. And I didn't plan that to, like you say, those are going to be the future drivers, and they for sure are, just like seeing the Sheldon Creeds and that kind of stuff. I didn't plan that out. It just worked out that way. But I'm certainly blessed to be in that position.
Yeah, we had 2 comments come in. I think you said it was Travis Lee or Brian Slee. Travis Bryan said, "Thank you, Chris. We couldn't have done any of it. Had my dreams without you." And then Downjet Matt commented in and said, "170s are definitely the future of our sport, and they only know the skinny, pedal." That's true though. Like
they're fully wooded.
I saw some of these kids sending it so far. I was like, man, they don't even let off going up the jumps. Like they don't care if they get sideways or anything. Some of the kids were they had this little tabletop where it's kind of like it was sideways a little bit, and some of these kids were getting fully like Bubba Scrub whipped off of it. It was awesome to see.
That's awesome.
So how'd your son end up doing that race?
We did all right. We didn't get on the podium, but work starts by points, and we hadn't done any races, and that wasn't the first round. So, we came in with 0 points. So we started on either the second or the third row. And I want to say that he was like 6th or 7th the first day, and I think moved up 1 or 2 spots the next day. So he's right there with the fast kids. He's in Lucas Oil. My son's had several podiums, has not won a race yet, but he's knocking on the door and he's fast. So it's just a matter of time, and we're going to be there.
Sweet, man. Well, he's definitely got an awesome dad to be able to help him get on the podium. Well, so there's a couple things that we want to let people know before we give you your rapid fire Q&A questions. So people can get a hold of Chris on Instagram at Benchmark Performance. So at BENCHMARK Performance, and you can hit him up anytime, or you can obviously call the shop.
Hang on. You gotta add the Inc. It's Benchmark Performance Inc. like incorporated, INC.
Oh, okay. Inc.
Benchmark Performance Inc.
Got it. Or you guys can go to the Dirt Life Show and look at our last couple posts. We've tagged him on those posts, and you can see him there. And you can always reach out to him by calling the shop at Benchmark Performance down in Southern California. Is there anybody else that you'd like to thank or to throw a shout out before we start getting into your rapid fire?
Oh man, there's a huge list of people that have been influences too, and I'm blessed to work around. I don't want to miss anybody, so I'm not going to do any more name drop, but all these drivers and teams that I work with.
Yeah. Okay. Casey's going to do a name drop for you.
Say that again?
There's got to be one, and that would be your wife for the blanket.
That was where I was going too.
Gotta be.
Heck yeah, that's awesome. My wife, Wendy. No, there's a lot of great people, and everybody that I work with, I'm just appreciative. So thank you all. Everybody has a choice on where they go. I don't fault anybody who's talked to me and doesn't end up using us. Some of it's logistics. There's all different reasons, but thank you for the ones that do choose us to help them. We'll always put our best foot forward.
Yeah, it always makes me happy to hear that too, because you stay humble and you stay knowledgeable and you stay on the forefront of it, and people will come back. Like me, for instance, I'm a perfect example. When we got our Yamaha deal, unfortunately, I couldn't use his ECU tune anymore. I had to do other things because that's what was mandated by Yamaha for my program. Mm-hmm. And it's cool to see that we can talk, we can still have a good relationship, and we can go forward now. If I ever get a Honda Talon, I already know the shop that it's going to. You know what I mean? So it's neat to have those relationships, and he's the one that keeps it, level-headed. It's pretty bitchin', man.
Absolutely.
All right, Chris, are you ready for a rapid-fire Q&A?
I don't know if I'm ready, but let's do it.
All right. Casey, you want to go first?
You go first.
All right. So the first question is, Corona or Pacifico?
Don't drink, so neither one.
All right, how about Mountain Dew or Coke then?
Coffee Monster.
Okay, got it.
Nice. Barsha or Webb, if you're following.
Webb.
Nice.
He's a Honda guy, so he's probably picking Brayton or Roxon if he really had the choice, right?
Right.
I'm a huge Roxon fan, guys, and
It's hard not to be.
even if he wasn't on a Honda right now, just the stuff that he's gone through and how he's maintained himself and his attitude, at least what we can see, the guy just blows me away. So yeah, I'm a huge Roxon fan for life, no matter what brand he's riding.
It is pretty mind-blowing.
Agreed.
Stuff. Yeah. Okay, next one. Favorite food?
Ice cream.
Nice. Little Smokies or pizza rolls?
Pizza rolls.
Yeah, I'm going pizza rolls too. Didn't you pick Little Smokies last time, Casey?
I did.
Yeah. All right.
My wife,
you kind
my
of
wife
already
says I live under a rock. I've never had Little Smokies.
Oh, well, she better get you some then.
Yeah, you're going to have to try them.
Yeah, she's going to get you some.
This Friday night's going to be off the chain. Little Smokies at Chris's house. Well, you kind of already answered favorite soda, so you're going Monster, huh?
Monster coffee.
If it's got to be soda, Dr. Pepper.
Ooh, yeah.
Me too.
Crave Rider. Have you seen those commercials? Crave Rider and Little Sweet.
I have not. We don't have TV at my house, so no commercials for a long time.
Yeah, I don't have TV over here either, but my crew chief always would put it in my face because we always had Diet Dr. Peppers at the track. So, okay. What's the next one, Case?
Most memorable race.
Oh, you forgot one.
Oh, I did. Uggs or Crocs?
The audio's not that good on that side. Can you say that again?
Yeah, no problem. Uggs or Crocs?
Oh, Uggs, hands down.
You're going. Are you at Uggs at the Dunes wear?
Oh heck yeah! I got a set of Uggs in the motorhome, ready for the dunes right now.
Sweet, man. Okay, so you already heard this question, but we'll ask it again. Most memorable race, and this could be maybe the Works race that you did, or the Lucas race that you did, or it could be one of the races that you had with one of your drivers.
Man, any of the ones I didn't tell all the details of the Honda life. Worked there a long time, but I flew in the helicopter 3 times for the Baja 1000 with Honda, and any of those helicopter chase races were just epic, and probably never get that opportunity again.
That's sweet. That actually is pretty cool, man. Hope maybe one of these days we can have you on the show again, or we could do an Instagram live or something with you to get some of those fun stories, because I think those would be pretty cool. Our audience would love those.
Definitely. Okay, so you said
absolutely love it.
Said your favorite food was ice cream. What's the favorite flavor of ice cream?
Coffee or mint chip.
Nice.
Ski or snowboard?
Snowboard.
Sweet. I'm right there with you.
Dogs or cats?
Dogs. I'm allergic to cats. I like cats, but you can't be around them.
Yep, same here. Netflix or YouTube?
Netflix.
Going Netflix.
Burrito or taco?
Burritos for sure.
Yeah, another California guy with the burritos.
It's got to be.
Okay, it's Supercross or motocross?
Supercross. Both are great, but yeah, Supercross.
You just the last person what they picked was Lucretia, and didn't she pick motocross?
She did.
Yeah, I think because she's like the desert racer, you know. Like, okay, what other form of racing would you like to try?
Me, let's see.
You can pick anything. I always tell everybody this. You can pick monster trucks. You can pick F1, whatever you want.
I don't know, maybe boat racing.
Oh, you're going boat racing? Like, what's the ones with the pickle forks or whatever they're called?
Yeah, that's one of my projects. I got a pickle fork with a turbocharged, fuel-injected big block Chevy.
Nice.
Holy cow. All right, last question of the night, bud.
All right, you ready? Chips and guacamole or fries and ketchup?
I'm a no condiment guy, so definitely the chips and guac.
Dang, winner, chips and guac dinner. All right. Well, thank you very much, Chris. We really appreciate you taking all the time. I know you're a super busy guy, and those LS swaps in the farm vehicles and stuff like that aren't waiting on nobody. So thanks for taking the time out to talk with us, bud.
It was fun. Thank you guys for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
We learned a lot about your story, man. I think there's still a lot that we could uncover that would be super, super cool campfire stories. So one of these days we'll have to have you on the show again, or at least come out and just hang out with you at the dunes or something when all this craziness stops and we can all hang out, get back to racing, and have some fun.
Sounds good. I'm expecting things to boom here when COVID gets opened up.
Yeah.
I think you're right.
I think so too. All right, bud. Well, tell your wife thank you for the blanket. Thank you for coming on the show tonight with us. We'll talk to you soon, bud.
See you, Chris.
Thanks, George. And you too. I'm sorry. I'm horrible remembering names. Have a great evening.
You too. Take care, Casey.
Later, Chris.
See ya.
Thanks, Casey. See you guys.
Bye. That was pretty cool. Dude, I want to know way more about some of these Honda projects and some of this fun stuff.
It's got to be so much.
Dude, can you imagine being in that environment? Like, how cool it would be?
Well, how cool is it that he's like I was picturing all of a sudden you're at like the top secret military or base or something when they're
get to go in Area 51.
Right, and remember it was door number 8 or whatever. I'm like, what? I can just picture it in my mind.
You think he got stuck like Austin Powers in the golf cart in the in the hallway?
In the hallway.
Dude, how awesome was that, man? We are stoked, and thank you everybody for tuning in. We got a lot of great comments tonight, and thank you everybody for watching such a long interview. It was really, really cool to hear that. The funny thing about it is it wasn't long enough.
Yeah,
like we could still get so many more cool stories from that. So I'm going to put down in my notes that we need to have Chris back on or do some sort of other Instagram live or something with him just so we could literally sit down and talk about racing and talk about super cool stories. Getting to know his life is just so interesting. When we talked to Adam Drake on Saturday, we were talking about this. You pass by somebody at the track and you think you know them, right? Not even close. The stories that Chris just gave us just opened Pandora's box to us wanting to know more. You know what I mean? So it was really cool. Thanks again, Chris, for joining us. Thank you, everybody, for taking all the time out of your guys' busy schedule. And we want to thank all of our sponsors as well. We'd like to thank Shock Therapy. You can use the code DIRTLIFE to save a whole bunch of money at their website. We want to thank the guys over at KMC Wheels. Thank you very much, Ryan, for joining the team and being a part of the Dirt Life show. We're going to be giving away some stuff from them in the next few weeks here, so pay attention on social media for that stuff. Obviously, these wheels look bitchin'. And this candles, dude, it's off the chain.
It's
not
so
even
good.
You're welcome to smell it again if you need to.
Man. You guys are missing out.
Dude, it is so good. Those things are factory. And what does it say? Smells like victory.
The smell of victory.
Smell of victory, yeah.
And it says 8 ounces of freedom.
Does it really?
Yes.
Oh, dude, it gets even better. So thanks, Ryan, over at KMC for supplying us with all this goodness.
Wow.
Thank you for the guys at Zollinger Racing Products for supporting the show. We had a good time talking with them on Instagram Live last week with Travis Zollinger. That was really cool. You can use the code DIRTLIFE over there as well and save a whole bunch of money and upgrade your car. Those are nice, easy bolt-on products usually that you can just do in your garage while you're on COVID-19 duty. And then the guys at Rugged Radios, we're going to give that stuff away. Pay attention tomorrow on social media. Those guys are super, super cool. They're going to hook you guys up with the RHSR 5-watt radios. And thank you to Solderweld for always being there with us. And, yeah, we really appreciate everything that you guys have done for us. Keep tuning into the show. Share it with your buddies. Hang out. It's awesome, awesome, awesome. Thank you, everybody, for chiming in. Down Jet Matt. So if you know you need something for a giveaway, well, I'll hit you up, man. It sounds good. We really, really appreciate everybody. Thank you so much for everything. Next week's guest is Sarah Price, and on that show, we're going to give away some Rugged Radios. Sarah Price is an amazing individual. She's a very humble woman that lives in Southern California as well. She's worked her way from riding dirt bikes, little 80cc dirt bikes when I first saw her, up to a trophy truck now.
PW50?
Probably. I can only imagine.
Can't wait.
We'll have to get in there and talk to her about it. So the PW50 dreams live on. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We really appreciate you guys. Love you. Good night.
Thanks for listening to The Dirt Life Show.